It's good. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to start our meeting today. Welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for March 24th, 2015. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? So which one do you... I will. No, not you, George. I was thinking of 4H. You're a little past that.
Yeah.
So one of you 4H folks want to start us off on the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so any announcements, right? Any announcements? All right, we're going to go into recognition and acknowledgments. And there's a proclamation for our sheriff volunteers. Jim?
Good morning. Jim Macedo. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office. If I could, I'd like to bring the Sheriff's Office volunteer unit up for recognition today.
Yes. Anybody want to come on up?
Is there a board member that would like to read this?
Yeah, we're going to have Supervisor Oliver do that. All right. Go ahead. I can leave. I'll walk right out here. We got to get a bigger van.
Fall in. We got plenty of room this way, everybody.
Okay, get closer.
Get closer.
Get yourself close. Look for it on my Facebook page.
Ladies and gentlemen, recognize the achieved hours and commitment of the Calaveras County Sheriff's Volunteer Unit for the year 2014. Whereas, the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office Unit Volunteer Unit was formed in 1989 to assist the Sheriff's Office with administrative and other duties within the department. And whereas, they have staffed and operated 5 sheriff substations, besides assisting the public events throughout the county. The volunteers routinely patrol through the county with marked patrol cars. In 2013, the 28 members patrolled 24,695 miles and donated 9,513 hours to the citizens of Calaveras County. And whereas, in 2014, 24 members patrolled 33,805 miles and donated 10,050 hours to the citizens of Calaveras County. And whereas, the Sheriff's Office instituted a program in 2010 to recognize those having achieved certain milestones in their commitment to volunteer service. To be eligible to receive this award, the volunteer must have contributed the following: worked between 250 and 499 hours in 1 year, they receive a silver lapel pin. Worked more than 500 hours in 1 year, they receive a gold lapel pin. Worked more than 4,000 hours in their lifetime, they receive a beautiful colored lapel pin. In addition to each of the above awards, they will receive a personalized certificate and a congratulatory letter from the President of the United States. And whereas for the year 2014, the award recipients are Silver Lapel Pin, Kathleen Gonzalez, 268 hours. Gold Lapel Pin, more than 500 hours in a year. Ralph Colarcio, 901 hours. Louis, and I believe Chu. I'm sorry about that. 622 hours. Ed Evans, 531 hours. Lyle Bratt, I believe that's correct.
Correct.
545 hours. Whereas the volunteers are also awarded stars and pins in recognition for their service are Ralph Colascio, 1 bronze star, 2,000 plus hours. Bob Feinberg, 2nd bronze star, 3,000 plus hours. Betty Miner, 6th bronze star, 9,000 plus hours. Aurora Weatherby, 2nd bronze star, 3,000 plus hours. Paul Shin, ribbon, 1,000 plus hours. Whereas, there is also awarded a service stripe for each 2 years of service. The following were awarded service stripes in 2014. Vic Farina, February 2014, 2nd stripe, 4 years. Eddie Miner, April 2014, 5th stripe, 10 years. Murtry, April 2014, 1st stripe, 2 years. Ed Anderson, June 2014, 3rd stripe, 6 years. Paul Shin, June 2013, 1st and 2nd stripes, 4 years. Nancy Guatemala, that's close. August 2014, 5th year pin. South, September 2014, 1 year pin. Bob Feinberg, November 2014, 4th stripe, 8 years. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, that the Board of Supervisors recognizes the Sheriff's Volunteer Unit for their exemplary service to the County of Calaveras. Now, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we recognize the Volunteer Unit, the Sheriff's Department, by this proclamation.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion made by Supervisor Oliver and seconded by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Public comment?
Oh, okay. All right, public comment. Sorry. Any public want to comment on this? Okay. Bring it back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we leave, I want to personally thank each and every one of you. I've worked on the street with you as a deputy sheriff, and I've made many good friendships with these folks. And you folks have done nothing but exemplary service. I personally thank you for your service to our community.
Well, you have just a quick moment of everybody's time. Obviously, not all the sheriff's volunteers could be here today. Our captain, Betty Miner, in the middle, leads our volunteer unit. These folks, I don't think there's quite the proper words to say what these folks have done for us, especially over the last 3 or 4 years as our resources have tightened. They've really stepped up and done just a fantastic job, and they've taken a big load off our shoulders. A lot of credit goes to Miss Betty Miner and her lieutenant, Ed Anderson. Ed, if you'd raise your hand, please. And then we have 4 beat sergeants that kind of manage the substations and the staff up there. If you could all raise your hands for me. A couple of them are not here. One is Ralph. They've done a great job for us, so I can't thank them enough. I would be remiss if I didn't note that the sheriff is not here today. He's feeling under the weather, but he wanted to extend his apologies for not being here and thank all of you again. We do have a formal dinner. It's kind of semi-casual, but the official portion of the dinner is formal, where they're awarded these pins each January at the Senior Center, and it's a great time. And they are also a nonprofit company, and they do accept some donations. So thank you very much for your time, and congratulations to the volunteers.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. After you.
Let them feel better. Give a chance to talk. Feel better?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you look fine.
That's okay. I just hope none of you get it.
Okay, so let's move on to our next recognition and acknowledgments. First 5 of Calaveras. Adopt a proclamation declaring April 2015 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Robin Davis, and I'm a coordinator with First 5 Calaveras and the Prevent Child Abuse Council. And I'm here on behalf of the council to urge our community to stand up for children. No child should ever be a victim of child abuse or neglect, but certain risk factors such as job loss, housing loss, drug abuse, and family violence are a daily reality for some of our county's families. We'll be giving you a packet with the statistics, including the number of cases for your district, as well as flyers for events that are going to be happening throughout April. And we'll have 2 speakers here before we do our resolution. So last year, 639 children in our county were affected by child abuse and neglect, with children birth to age 5 at the highest risk. 66% of the reports involve neglect. And research tells us that when children are neglected of their basic needs or of the responsiveness and nurturing that they need, that they live in chronic stress. Childhood trauma disrupts brain development in young children. And in children and adults, trauma can overwhelm one's ability to cope. There have been cases where children were placed in protective care due to physical or emotional abuse or neglect, and later revealed that they had been sexually abused. Sexual abuse is rarely reported. In fact, this year it was 2% of the cases in Calaveras County. The secrecy, the fear, and the denial can foster generations of violence. Working with other agencies, we teach children and parents how to open the communication that keeps children safe. The majority of cases involve some drug addiction. And in one example, Children's Services and law enforcement responded to an unsafe household of multiple families where all of the adults were using methamphetamine. A 16-year-old in the household told the social worker, I'm so relieved you came. This is how we begin to break the cycle and strengthen a family. We're working hard to change the outcomes for children. Prevention starts early, at birth and in preschools, with teachers, providing teachers, and the child's first teacher, parents, with support. Collectively, with many agencies working together, we empower parents to heal from their own trauma, to advocate for their children, to build a new support system, and to become emotionally healthy, resilient parents. This April, through the efforts of collaboration, we are providing parents with many opportunities to gain new skills, to go out and have fun with their kids and connect with others. I also have flyers for this month's events, and we have a variety of parent workshops that are offered in the day and the evening through First 5 Calaveras and Calaveras Health and Human Services agencies. The Resource Connection will host the Children's Fair on April 11th at Bret Harte. And we hope that you can show your support and come see the artwork of children, youth, and adults affected by child abuse and neglect. Prevent Child Abuse Council will be hosting the Stand Up for Children Art Reception Open House on April 21st at 4 o'clock, 4 to 5:30, at the Center for Creativity and Community in San Andreas. And again, I have some flyers for you. Child abuse and neglect rarely stops with help from outside the family. We cannot be bystanders. We all must stand up for children. And I'd like to introduce Jason Lowe. He has been working to advocate for the rights of youth in foster care. He is the co-chair of the Calaveras Youth Connection and the Policy Committee for California Youth Connection of the Central Valley.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors. Let me explain to you why child abuse is important. And the reason is when children come into the world, they can only trust two people. Those two people are their mother and father. And over time, that trust needs to be earned and built, and it strengthens between child and parent. But when the parent deviates from the path of child and parent and decides to choose other options and then ends up abusing and neglecting the child now has a hole in its heart that cannot be repaired or covered up with boo-boos and kisses. As a former foster youth, I can tell you that today, my hole still exists from both my parents. And to deal with the trauma that I suffered, I had a lot of help from the community, a lot of help from important people in my life. But to see that now that a lot of people are going to stand up for child and youth rights, it makes me happy. So, it's important to understand trauma. Because I didn't understand why I was getting nightmares all the time or anything like that. It was all new to me. But now that I learned and understand, I'm helping other people and other youth to deal with that trauma. So if we stand up and help these hopeless children and learn to let them stand on their own 2 feet and let them deal and cope with this trauma, it can change things. It can change how they do in school. It can change their lifestyle. And all these children need is love. To show them love. Once you show a child love and compassion, their doors open up. They can do great things. You just have to let them. That's why when we give out information for child abuse and trauma and teach people, hold classes, and all this other stuff, it's important to let youth know that your emotions and your mental state matter to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Come on
Who's
up.
reading it? Okay.
So Supervisor Wright will be awarding the proclamation.
You spoke so well. Thanks a lot. Seriously. I'm going to go ahead and read it. You can sit there and facing the audience. So it's my honor to read this today. Proclamation declaring April 2015 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas children are the future of Calaveras County and deserve our most committed support and protection. And whereas child abuse occurs when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources
and the lack of knowledge and skills to effectively cope. And whereas child abuse includes general and severe neglect of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, and whereas child abuse and neglect increase the likelihood of long-term physical and mental problems, alcohol and substance abuse, continued family violence, and criminal behavior. And whereas research shows that parents and caregivers who seek help in times of trouble are more resilient and better able to provide safety and nurturing for their children. And whereas a community, each of us is tasked with making children a top priority and taking appropriate action to stop the cycle of abuse that destroys the lives of those affected. Therefore, be it proclaimed, the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras County does hereby declare April 2015 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so declaring, Calaveras County citizens are encouraged to join our efforts to build healthy, safe, and nurturing families. Children succeed when their parents succeed, and families do better when they live in supportive communities. Board Chair, can I have a motion, please?
Make the motion.
Make the motion to approve the proclamation.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Wright, a second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor? Public comments, please. Public comments? Caught it myself that time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's 5-0 in favor. Thank you. I would just like to say something about this. Jason? I met Jason probably, 4 years ago? Somewhere around there? 3 years ago? Okay. And you got a good memory, Jason. So, you've been watching Jason go through the whole CYC process, and first time I met him, I think it was at a haunted house, right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a haunted house.
Yeah. And I got to tell you that, I listened to you speak a couple of times, always really good, but you got it down now. This was a very, very good speech. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
service.
It took me a while. I've been to Sacramento back and forth talking to legislators on the behalf of foster youth for the entire state of California, also being on the Child Abuse Board for this California welfare system. And so I was able to grow and mature into the person now, and I'm glad I'm able to use my skills to represent youth on a county level as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you very much.
Are there any questions?
No questions. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thanks.
Okay. So we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Public comments. It's one of those days, I guess. Any public comments? So any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the consent agenda. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the regular agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard. So I want to ask, how many people out here are thinking about speaking on public comment? And the kids. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes today. You don't have to speak for the whole 5 minutes. It's not a requirement, okay, but
My name is Kenny Reed. I'm an all-star at Calaveras, and also I'm Calaveras County 4-H Council Vice President, and I'm also Tridam 4-H President. And my pig was Kiss the Pig last year, and my pig
I remember that pig.
my pig is also Kiss the Pig again. So
All right.
hopefully have a nice plump pig for someone one of you to kiss, whoever's on the board.
And clean, right?
Yeah. Everything. And I'd like to say thank you for your support for 4-H for many of the years.
Hello, I'm Johnny Bell. I am a member of the San Andreas 4-H Club for 6 years now. We have 21 projects over. Our main project this year is still poultry, and we also went to the Cast for Kids this year. Me and my little brother were volunteers for it, and we have a picture. Does anyone want to know what it is, or they have any questions about it?
Yeah, we'd like to see it.
Look at that.
So where's that at? Here, I'll keep it for life. All right, that's great. You grew about a foot in the past year. All right. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Daz Belt from Mountain Oak School. I'm in the 6th grade. I'm 11 years old. I'm in the 6th grade. I go to San Andreas 4-H Club. I have over 21 projects, and my favorite one is poultry. Thank you for your support.
All right, thank you.
That's not very nice.
Very valid. That's adorable.
Shame on you.
See, it does.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Enderline. This is my 6th year in 4-H, and I have about 8 projects. My favorite ones is alpacas, market poultry, and welding. And we are also raising meat chicks this year at fair.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Colin Enderline, and I am doing Legos this year, welding, and market poultry. I am also doing meat chicks this year.
Over here. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't like those ties either.
Yeah. Something we all.
Okay, I'm Anita Hatfield. I'm the West Point community leader. We have a very small club, but I started 4-H back in the 60s as a member, and I think it's a very valuable thing for the kids. So even though my children are no longer eligible for 4-H, I'm trying to keep it going. One of our projects happens to be meat goat. This is not a 4-H goat, but I brought it down so you could get an idea of what their boar goats look like.
Well, I guess she doesn't like
Bites. No, they don't bite.
What breed is it?
Boar.
Boar?
Well, this one's a boar and Indian cross, so she shows the boar thing.
Picture.
I did.
Oh, okay.
He's quick. Quick on that. Because of this. All right, great. Any? Thank you, folks. Thank you very much for, again, bringing 4-H here. And I see you in a lot of places doing a lot of things in the community. Are you guys having a chili cook-off here pretty quick? Is that right? Mount Ranch. What's the date on that?
Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So go on up and support the 4-H and to the chili cook-off in Mountain Ranch, right, at the park on Saturday. That's really great. Thank you again for coming and sharing with us. We really appreciate it. And thanks, kids, for being such good students and good people in our community.
Thank you.
All right.
Marty Crane, Rancho, Calaveras, Valley Springs area. I just want to say that as a child, I was part of 4-H, and 4-H touches almost every aspect of your life. You are the people that tomorrow will be here, okay? So, and everything that you do leads you towards where you're going to end up in the future and gives you the strength to speak out when you need to speak out on things that you have learned about. In 4-H, my sisters learned about rabbits and chickens and things, and I learned about sewing, which has served me so well over the years. And I also want to say that I get to be one of the contestants for Kiss the Pig this year, and I'm very excited. And then also the Youth Center in Valley Springs. We're like overwhelmed with the thrill of the setting up a 4-H club, partnering with them to bring a 4-H club to the Valley Springs Youth Center. So go kids, way to go. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? You don't mind, I won't take your picture, okay?
I'm Janet Clark. I'm part of CICA, which is the California In-Home Supporting Service Consumer Alliance. I'd like to invite you guys to Disability Capital Action Day. I'm part of the volunteers to help get people down there to support people with disabilities in the afternoon. You may be able to talk to your legislator if they hang around long enough. I'd like to give this to you. It's the theme for today, the theme for our event for this year is today, tomorrow, and forever. And what happens is we meet down at the Rose Garden, and then we march the 2 blocks down to the West Capitol, and then we have all kinds of vendors and stuff there. And then again in the afternoon, you may be able to get in to see your state legislator.
Thank you.
What day was that? May the 20th, or 26th?
May 20th. May 20th at 9 o'clock, the west lawn of the state capitol.
Okay.
David Tuno, Rancho Calaveras. Just happened to be reading the Calaveras Enterprise this morning and tore out an ad for a job application here in the county that caught my eye. I'll read it for everybody. The County of Calaveras is accepting applications for an assistant county administrative officer. This position is responsible for assisting the CAO with budget development and financial analysis, will review, create, and update numerous policies. The successful candidate will be results-oriented, have 5 years of experience working for a municipality with supervisory or executive leadership responsibilities, and have outstanding oral and written communication skills. Salary range is $106,000 to $129,000. The reason it got my attention is because it's an assistant position, a 6-figure assistant position supporting another 6-figure person. And now it does say that for a detailed job flyer and specific application requirements, you can go to the website and pick it up. But it doesn't say the position even requires a specialized degree. And only requires 5 years of experience, it struck me as being a heck of a lot of money for an assistant position that supports another six-figure position, and I'm just wondering whether or not this was known by the board, and whether there's some further justification for this that it's not apparent in the ad. Maybe the detailed application specifies degrees and whatnot that aren't written here, but there was certainly space for that kind of detail in the ad. It's not here, so to me it just struck me as being frankly wildly excessive, but maybe someone could assuage my concerns about that. Thank you very much.
Any other public comments?
Good morning, Board. My name is Bill McManus, and I'm from Hanford Hill. Several months ago, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I attended a hearing concerning an administrative use permit for the pot shop in Arnold. During that process, I was shocked at the level of misinformation, bad information, lies, and fairy tales. So I decided to not just complain about it, but to educate myself. And so I started a process of research, trying to find out what the problem was, trying to find out what pot was doing to communities throughout this state and across the country. I came upon one person in Colorado. Her name is Gina Carboni, and she runs an organization called Smart Colorado. Her emphasis is protecting the youth of Colorado from the dangers of marijuana, especially when it isn't properly controlled and it's allowed to leak out of that system into the young community and the hazards that it can cause and the carnage that it causes. So I prepared a pamphlet for you. The Planning Commission has almost all of this. It changes all the time. And if you would open it up, and on the inside cover, the first document you will see is your roadmap, blueprint, whatever you want to call it, to eliminating this problem from Calaveras County. It explains that you can get rid of pot altogether. It's easy, it's legal, and it's something I think you should consider doing because, quite frankly, Calaveras County is a rodeo right now of illegal distribution, sales, use of marijuana. It's not anything like you might think. Should that not be possible, if you have a problem with your oath of office and you decide not to do that, it's my understanding that County Council is working on a grow ordinance, which hopefully will be coming out soon. Counties and cities all up and down the state have either refused to allow marijuana in their communities or have tried to control it very carefully. As my information details, not one new city or county has decided to experiment with the pot business. In fact, many cities and counties who have done it regret it. And every day it seems like another city or county are rescinding their ordinances that govern the use of marijuana and the pot shops. So right now, we're looking at the ordinances that were passed a couple weeks ago and made effective immediately from Yuba County, which is a grow ordinance. And they decided to, rather than get rid of pot altogether, to try to very tightly regulate it, the growing of marijuana. The one thing they didn't address in all of this was hash oil, which we would be looking to go beyond the Yuba County ordinance and try to get some strict controls on hash oil, which is a frightening product. Every day I receive more information about how it's being abused in various communities. And just so you can become informed, as I was pretty naive about the whole thing. Inside the back cover are some information sheets from medical doctors, researchers, and other organizations detailing just how dangerous marijuana is, especially for the youth of our communities. Marijuana taken by people that are under 25 years old has a devastating effect. And I just don't want to see that happen. If someone is old and sick and wants to smoke pot, God bless them, let them go ahead. But we've got to control this product or get rid of it altogether to protect the youth of our community. So as this process moves on, I'm going to be back every single meeting, providing you with more information, more updates, and urging you to, first of all, either get rid of pot or control it in a way that protects the most vulnerable of our community, and that's the young people. Thank you.
Good morning, Mary Beth Hospital, Community Outreach Coordinator for Cal Waste. I wanted to thank Supervisor Kearney for coming down and taking a tour last week. I hope you enjoyed it. I also want to thank Supervisor Oliver for being at Hazel Fisher Elementary the other day when we unveiled the kids' video. Thank you very much. I wanted to let you guys know next Wednesday, April 1st, Cal Waste, along with Yvonne Van Zee, we are going to be on public access TV again, so stay tuned. And April 28th, we will be here to present the kids' recycling video to the board. So thank you for allowing us that opportunity. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Supervisor members. I'm back again. Last Wednesday was a special board meeting, and I shared with you the 2015 Senior Volunteer of the Year application. And I thought maybe we might have more audience participation here this morning, but I did catch the sheriff's volunteers and handed out some applications to them, hoping they would find somebody in their midst that would qualify to be Senior of the Year. So I have applications here for anybody who's interested. The second item has to do with Caltrans sticking with the present design for Highway 26 work. That was in this morning's Calaveras Enterprise. I never understand the engineers at Caltrans. I had to deal with them for 10 years, as I told Supervisor Edson the other day, last week I think it was, and as a planner here in the county. And they always, we're always off the wall with everything. And a prime example is at the intersection of Highway 4 and 49. To let the access off of 49 into that little shopping center be there is absolutely ludicrous when they could have had a left-hand turn lane off of Highway 4 into there. I'm glad that you're on top of it, Supervisor Kearney, and I don't understand why they can't move across the highway and do whatever they need to do there. They always have to pick the challenge. It's the same thing with the Mark Twain Healthcare District project. It was amazing to me that they wanted to do a turnaround down by Middleton's on Highway 49, and they wanted to do a turnaround at 4 and 49 in order to allow the clinic on Dogtown Road. Nice clinic, but it's the worst place in the world, and I'm sure Chris Wright would agree with that as a former land use planner, that it was the worst place in the world for it. And Caltrans was going to approve that. That's insane. So, good luck to you.
Good morning, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. And thank you, Mr. Edson, for reminding me of one of my goals is to educate the community about March being National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. I come every year hoping that the public health department would step up and take on the task of educating the community that colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in the United States. First is lung cancer, for women breast cancer, for men testicular cancer, but combined colorectal cancer is the second leading cause, which is on the decline because finally people are recognizing the importance of getting checkups. The checkup most utilized is something called colonoscopy, in which the patient is required to drink a solution of some extremely salty water, clean out their bowels, and have a scope check out their colorectal area. If there is something called a polyp, which is a protrusion into the colorectal canal, that's a problem. Waste passing by will irritate such a polyp, and sometimes cancer will develop. Another concern is something called diverticulitis, which is a pocket which goes outside the colorectal column, which fills with debris and waste and can almost gangrene. Colonoscopies are recommended from the age 40, and they can be very expensive. If you've ever had to pay one out of pocket, they cost about $5,000. If you have insurance, you're lucky, it may be less. But for those of us, country folk, who maybe have put it off, I'd recommend go down as soon as possible, but $5,000 may be a little bit scary for someone. So I have developed what I call the Calaveras County Country Home Style Colonoscopy Kit. And it consists of a pair of sterile gloves. I would recommend sterile gloves. Second, we have a roll of toilet paper in case there is an accident. Thirdly, we have a mirror, which will give us our visual realization necessary. And finally and lastly is the apparatus that I have developed, which comes with instructions. The instructions say, insert apparatus into designated area, ream about freely. If pain persists, see a doctor. Go to a doctor. This is just my joke of trying to bring attention to some very serious issue. Hopefully, your family does not have to deal with this, but some of us do. And I thank you very much. Oh, and I'll be back next year, unless Dr. Kaleda finally gets enough energy to come on his own. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed because I know you have two supervisors that are involved with the Highway 4 Corridor Committee. This is the one involving all of the water and wastewater agencies along the Highway 4 Corridor. We will be having another meeting on the 2nd of April, and it will be at the Foothill Village in Angels Camp, starting at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. I appreciate Debbie's effort in facilitating the last meeting. I think there was a lot accomplished in beginning to have some constructive discussions going on amongst the various agencies. I see this as a twofold approach, and that is that the policymakers being there have a responsibility to be sure that the policies are carried forward. We're kind of like the idea guys, if you want to call it that. But the staff really has to get their head into the ground and do the footwork. And it's amazing just sitting back since that last meeting and how much background noise has been created around the initial discussions and what the staffs are coming up with. It's just quite surprising how much out-of-the-box thinking can really happen when you put people together like that. And I know it's a first in a very long time, and I just really hope that we can continue this effort between the various agencies, as long as and with the board here. To me, it's a brave new world, and I'm just very pleased and proud to be a part of it. So, thank you for your time, and I hope that if you're interested or you have people that are interested that in the community, we'll see you there.
Thank you, Dennis.
Morning, Marty Crane, Valley Springs. For many years, I've been real involved with the Mark Twain Healthcare District and the plans to build the clinic up there. Also, all the planning, community, open and transparent community planning processes in Valley Springs. And I can tell you that when an idea comes forward and the community rebels against it, such as the location for the clinic in Angels, that community said no. Had they not said no, and Caltrans had said no, everyone would have been angry with Caltrans. But the community said no, that's the wrong location. But Caltrans, as they generally do, were trying to work with the community. They cannot force us to plan well. It's not their fault that that location was chosen, selected, and then working through the process determined that it was not a viable location. The same thing in Valley Springs. The design for that intersection was not designed by Caltrans. The community was unable to rally together around one particular design until this particular design came, and finally they said, okay, this is what we want. So after all of that time, for Caltrans to say no, we would have rallied and said, shame on you, Caltrans. But they are just trying to work with the communities. They cannot force us to plan well. They can help us and they can encourage us, but they are our partners, and these are the partners for all of the community, not just you. So talking with them, working with them, but understand they can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. They cannot force us to plan well. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff, or interested party may request removal of an item for the consent agenda for later discussion. Any member of the public wish to remove anything on the consent agenda? 7. Okay. Any other one? Anybody else?
Number 4, please.
Number 4. Okay. How about the board? Anybody from the board wish to remove anything?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda items number 3, 5, and 6.
All right, so I have a motion by Supervisor Connie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 5-0. It moves forward. All right, so let's go with item 4, Peter.
Peter, Jenny, I find it very interesting to bring this issue up today. All the kids were here. One thing that caught my eye, as a sucker to read the whole damn thing, prime reproductive rate, age, 11 to 45. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think they're considered minors. And what bothered me about it is, nowhere did I see mention of getting parents involved. Nowhere did I see anything that law enforcement involved. I know some of you are parents, some of you are grandparents. To me, if my granddaughter gets into a little problem, you better get a law enforcement involved, because I would get involved. And I know who would need the more restraining. Also, a lot of the services that they want to provide, they don't have it in this county. They're going to provide it outside of the county. Now, maybe I'm misunderstanding. It's in English. But just think about it. If your kid, your daughter, 12 years old, have a little complications, you're not notified. They have a right, legal, I presume, take it out of the county to take care of the problem. I have a problem with it. I have grandkids, and whatever the process is going to be, whatever they're going to do, they're leaving you out of it. Nowhere you're going to be contacted, explained, or whatever. And a whole bunch of different complications can come in, not one specific one. The other thing is that they were going to take care of, if you take a look at it, I believe it's on Section 2, Enforcement, 2.2.2 and 2.2.3. One of them is they're going to take care of responsibility for air, food, water, solid, and hazardous material. Is that mean you guys going to can Mr. Moss and Health and Human Services going to take over the responsibility for solid waste and so on? Now, there's 3 agencies involved, as I see it. Fed, state, and local. But you know whose signature is going to be at the bottom of this? You 5 of yours. And come in a couple of months, a year or so, it's going to be attached to your name. If you feel no problem, 11, 12 years old, taken care of, without your involvement, without the cops' involvement, I'm going to nail those people. Because somebody lost principle, integrity, whatever you want to call it. Just from my perspective, no governmental agency is going to mess with my kids, a minor, under 18, and take care of problems without involving me or the parents. So think about, you have no problem signing this understanding? Your name's going to be at the... And it's not that hard to bring that little paper up comes election time. Thank you.
Bonnie Newman from Doble Springs. I'm not sure, because I didn't read the this whatever legislation or whatever statutes is involved here, but I think Peter's talking about something that I have a real strong feeling about. Peter's concerned about leaving parents out of a process that parents should be involved in, and law enforcement. Okay. I know from my experience working women's crisis that Between 80 and 90% of sexually abused children are abused by family members. Their fathers, their mothers, their uncles, their brothers and sisters. Sometimes the family is not the safe place that we would like it to be. Sometimes families are the source of the problems. And I think it's really important that there be outside interaction so that children who have been conditioned to allow abuse to happen to them can have an access to reach out and get assistance. But I'm not sure that's really what we're talking about. But from what Peter said, it sounded like families are the only source of children's growth and well-being. And I have to disagree that sometimes families can be the worst place for that same thing to have happen. Thank you.
Good morning, Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Health and Human Services. First, I'd like to make a correction. Under the recommendation, it should say with Blue Cross of California Partnership Plan. This is just merely the agreement. In the past, the local health department would directly bill for its services with the State Department for Medi-Cal payments back for those services that they provide to folks who are on Medi-Cal. Now, under the Affordable Care Act, they go through either California Health and Wellness or Anthem Blue Cross for their billing services as the two managed care plans that have been approved for Calaveras County. This is just merely the Anthem Blue Cross plan that allows us to bill into, to get the Medicaid or the Medi-Cal payments. That's all it is. There's no change.
Okay. All right, any other public comments? Yes, Peter?
There's no signature on page 824 where the compensation is mentioned. No general fund involved. And I'm not talking about the general fund. I'm talking about it as a taxpayer expense. That page is empty, folks. There's no dollar sign. I'd like to hear from a cop. What's he had to say about 11-year-old having sexual problems?
This is a billing plan. That is all it is. There would be no dollar sent to it because really it just allows the health department to bill directly into Anthem Blue Cross instead of directly into, in the past, the state Medi-Cal. It is an open, it's like an open contract to bill in, like we did previously to the State Department of Healthcare Services. Only now we do it through Anthem Blue Cross because they are the HMO. Just like the county, you know, when you take your insurance card, you take it to your provider. Now they're the health plan. In the past, it used to be directly into the Department of Healthcare Services. Today, it's Anthem Blue Cross or California Health and Wellness. That's the only difference. They're all of, you know, the Medi-Cal recipients now are on managed care plans. They make a choice. That's the only difference.
Okay.
Right. So if somebody were to see a provider, like Peter is indicating here, that would be between the provider and the various other agencies, including law enforcement, if there was an issue. This plan is dealing, as that individual is at the doctor or the clinic,
right,
that they're billing a different avenue now than where
right,
they billed in the past.
Right, and this is for the services that the health department does that they did previously that they would bill into Medi-Cal.
Which
now they bill into Anthem Blue Cross.
So the services for CHDP, the
Right.
HIV testing, the TB, all the
All the
array of
same things that they
services.
did before, they just now have to have a contract with Anthem Blue Cross. That's the only difference. It's just,
It's the managed care,
Exactly.
Obamacare environment.
that's the only difference.
Mary, this will not affect any type of criminal investigation involving sexual
No,
assault.
no,
It's
no,
totally different.
no. This is strictly a billing mechanism. That's all it is.
Which is budgeted, correct?
Yeah, it's just the billing mechanism, budget. It's open-ended, like, you may never use your insurance card, or you may. We'll be bringing the California Health and Wellness one later on for the public health, and then we'll be bringing them also in the future for mental health shortly. It's just the new mechanisms under the Affordable Care Act. Okay.
Okay, any other public comments? Any board comments?
I make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Connie to approve, authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign a memorandum of understanding with Anthem Blue Cross and a Medicare managed care plan, correct?
Medi-Cal.
Yeah, Medi-Cal. Wow, the eyes are a little, I got it pretty close there. Okay, so it would be the Blue Cross of California Partnership Plan. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we'll move on to consent item number 7. Bonnie, you pulled this one.
Just a real quick question. I was wondering, does these $2,000 come from the general fund, or does Human Services have a special fund for these allocations?
Okay, first let me read this so we can reiterate. This is make a finding of public benefit and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to contribute funds to support the goals of the Grad Knight Foundation of Calaveras County in an amount of $1,000 and the Resource Connection 16th Annual Children's Fair in an amount of $1,000.
The funds for the grad night come from the substance abuse program funds. There's no general fund in any of these, just to let you know. And then the money for the children's fair, 500 of it comes from the Mental Health Services Act. Okay, that's not any general fund. And then Public Health puts in $250 from their state and federal realignment fund, as well as Human Services gives $250 from their state and federal realignment funds. Okay?
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, sir.
Mary, question, is this an annual type?
These are annual events, and in the past, we used to previously give those, and then when there was a change in county policy, and we forgot, to be honest with you, about the change in policy. So normally in the future, we will go ahead and put them in with our budget memo. You'll see it coming up. It was my mistake.
Thank you. Okay, any public comments on this item? Any board comments on this item? Have a motion, please.
I move to approve item number 7.
Okay, Supervisor Kearney moves to approve item number 7, which is, once again, make finding of public benefit and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to contribute funds to support the goals of Grad Knight Foundation of Calaveras County in the amount of $1,000 and the Resource Connection 16th Annual Children's Fair in the amount of $1,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll continue on with our regular agenda. Okay?
Cut my mic off.
Oh, it's on. All right, so regular agenda item number 8, Public Works. Approve a resolution to adopt the initial study mitigated negative declaration and mitigation and monitoring reporting program for the Stagecoach Road low water crossing replacement project.
Diamond 20.
Thank you, Board. Just a reminder, Jeff Krovitz, I'm your new Public Works Director as of yesterday. I would like to pull this item from the agenda today. What I discovered and what we've discovered is that while it's the responsibility of the Board to approve the CEQA for the Highway Bridge Program portion of the environmental document, and while we've gone through the process that's compliant with Caltrans and CEQA, it's a little bit out of order with the way county practices have been done in the past. And so we will need 2 to 3 more weeks to come in line with county process, and we will bring this item back to the agenda for approval of the CEQA portion so we can move ahead with construction. I also hope in the future to kind of modify the process a little bit so that for our Highway Bridge Program, of which we're going to be seeing 20 of these in the next 3 years, we can be a little more streamlined and not have this problem in the future.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, probation. Oh, I'm sorry. We should do that, huh? Can I have public comments on item number 8, since it was on the agenda?
Just a comment, Peter, from Gentleman. I admire that people, they want to take control. And you guys are in control. But I find that taking responsibility is lacking someplace along the line. It's nice to have, hey, let's get some more general fund and so on, federal funds, state funds. But we've been having a nice revolving door of carpetbaggers coming in, going out. And the final responsibility is laying on you folks. You're selecting those people. You reward them quite handsomely. But boy, who's taking responsibility for this screw-up? Every time you get a new director, they got to take care of all the BS and screw-ups been going on for prior years. And you folks are getting stuck with it. Someplace somebody is not making the right decision. I don't know if the candidates or whoever. They present you with the choices. Hey, it must be great. But we're lacking the place where you say, hey, I made the decision hiring that whoever was here before and before that and before that. And us, the taxpayers, getting stuck with the consequences. So it's a question, who's yanking whose chain? Does your staff yanking your chain, or are you going to have to start yanking their chain? Because they're giving you choices. Do you feel comfortable with it? You are up here because you had some folks in prior years, and you are facing the consequences. It's going to end up on your tour of duty, let's say. You all been in business, and if you were in business, whatever your staff does, I don't care if it's an agent in real estate, a cop on the street, or somebody in a store, but someplace along the line, if they don't perform, it's end up in your lap. So think about it sometime. It almost seems like sometimes your staff just wants you to get your butt out of the county, so let them run it. But none of your staff really going to come out and say, hey, I screwed up. They retire, resign, whatever. But you end up stuck. What's end up happening? And it's not fair to you, and it's definitely not fair to the rest of us who are paying for those screw-ups. So hopefully, go visit some of these staff members, see what they're working on and why they're working on. And talking to not just the head of the department, but all those good folks who are pushing the pencil and pen. And they know the screws up are going on. Talk to them. They realize when somebody is talking what you wanted to hear, not what the actual facts are.
Excuse me. Peter, are your comments related to this?
Yes, ma'am.
This particular
Because
one?
this gentleman just told you he's going to have to redo it.
No. There's just another step that he would like to take in the process. So he's not redoing anything.
Well, it was supposed to have been done already, ma'am. And he's delaying it because he's going to have to go through it.
Not necessarily. It's just another step that he wants to ensure that is done.
Done right.
This is something that is a Diamond 20 project.
Yes.
Along with some federal funds for a replacement
Yes.
of a bridge.
He's going to have to redo it, has to restudy it, so it's not going to be more streamlined in the future.
No, that's the process. But the project right here is just to ensure that every part of the process and all parties have been communicated with.
Yes, ma'am, because it hasn't been done before, so he's got to redo it again, ma'am. So the taxpayer's still going to have to pay again.
I don't think it's a redo. It's not a redo of anything.
You have to streamline it, right?
It's just ensuring that all parties involved in this particular project have been duly notified. So it's not redoing anything. The initial study's been done.
On your packet, he was supposed to be just stamp it. He's going to have to take time to revise it. He's going to.
No.
He's not going to revise it.
There's no revision.
He's just going to have to modify so everybody's taken care of. And that's administration.
So
That's administering it.
what,
It wasn't administered properly right before.
it was probably just brought to the board a little too quickly, and now it's going to be finished correctly. That's all.
Yeah, it wasn't done correctly before.
It is not a continuation or a redo or anything that's going to cost any extra money. It's going to be, we got a new director. He's got his processes. He's going to streamline the processes. Is that a bad thing?
Somehow I think he's going to get paid for something that should have been done right before.
It's not the way it is. It's just his streamlined process is going to help us.
It was not administered properly. Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds like we made a good choice.
Alsa County Taxpayer Association. I'm familiar with that road and also the stream, and I have a hard time justifying spending $1.5 million on such a small project. The use of that road is just a few people. This is very similar to the Harvard Road big bridge project for millions of dollars. Even though the money's not coming from our county taxpayers, it's coming from our state and federal taxpayers, which is us too. So I think we need to look at this just like it was our own money. And does it make sense to spend that much money on something that should be done a lot simpler? One simple way could be done, the same with the Harvard Road stream crossing, is to put large culverts and then to put a coating of concrete that if you have a 100-year storm and the culverts cannot handle the water, then it can run over the road without washing it all out. This was what was done when that subdivision first was developed. They had two washed out culverts. They did not have provisions at those crossings for protection, water protection, and also they didn't have a method of catching debris like trees and stuff that would prevent the water from being dammed up. So maybe a couple $100,000, you have something that's good for maybe up until the 100-year storm instead of $1.5 million. That $1.5 million ought to go back to the taxpayer. Thank you.
I would just like excuse me, I'd just like to touch on a comment that Peter made when he was saying, excuse me, you'd think I was in Angel's Camp and I have a frog in my throat. Anyway, I'd like to say that, I would like to comment on something that Peter said, that you as board members should be going to department heads and quizzing them and so on and so forth. My humble opinion is your governance is that you're paying the CAO to be responsible to the department heads and be responsible to you, and that you don't need, in my humble opinion, to be micromanaging the department heads and give the CAO the respect that that person is due in terms of conducting what's going on with the department heads. The worst thing you could do is do end runs around the CAO and have her have no support from you and make her or his job even that much more difficult. I've been here 37 years, and I've yet to see a board that can't govern without micromanaging. And I mean it sincerely. So I hope that with 2 new board members and 3 board members that are fairly new, that we're going to be off to a much better start, and that Shirley has the full backing of you. Because if you don't back her and you don't go to her with your concerns and she touches base with the department heads and comes back to you, it's not going to work. And it's going to be a revolving door. And I've observed it for years, 37 years. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? I'll bring it back to the board. Any comments from the board?
I look forward to rehearing this item in a couple of weeks when our Public Works Director has an opportunity to assure the process has been followed.
Okay.
I concur with that position.
I'm on board with them.
All right, sounds good. All right, so bring it back in when you're ready. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 9, probation. Approve the probation department's force and firearms policies. Sam?
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to present this morning. I'll be fairly brief in my comments here, and then I know Captain Macedo, thank you for coming, is here to support this as well, so I'll give him a minute to speak when I'm done. But a few things that I want to point out about this policy. This is a range of use of force policy that I'm asking you to approve that includes arming. I've taken this decision very seriously as far as approaching you to approve this. There are 58 counties in California, and 53 of them have at least one armed probation officer. We're one of the 5 remaining that does not. 6 years ago, that number of armed counties was in the 30s. Realignment has really changed a lot of things, for better or worse. We're taking on a much different clientele, really many more high-risk offenders than we had before, and more criminally sophisticated offenders than what we had before. So, I'm asking that we lower that number to 50, or increase that number to 54, and that we no longer be completely unarmed. Now, we've done business for since our inception without being armed. So I guess that begs the question of why can't we keep doing that? Really, it's a matter of making sure that our officers go home safe every night, that you guys support this and protect our officers going home safe at night. But additionally, it's about increased accountability for the offenders that we supervise. You guys have sat there and heard me out a lot of times about rehabilitative stuff, and that honestly is where my heart is. I come from the social work side of the spectrum, and self-proclaimed research geek. I don't have the NRA thing, right? Arming is not something that I took lightly. Okay, it's not that I don't support it. Obviously, I'm here asking for that. But frankly, I come from the social work rehabilitative side of the spectrum. That being said, there are plenty of areas that you guys are more familiar with, District 2 in our county, where the response times are going to be very slow. And having our officers go up there and search some of these very high-risk offenders has historically required us to utilize a lot of time from the Sheriff's Department. And because of that, sometimes the availability, frankly, isn't going to be there, which means less searches, which means less home visits, which means less accountability for those offenders. And that is the other side of the equation. It's not all about rehabilitation. It's also about supervision and accountability from probation. So, one of the things that I ask new applicants routinely is I'll describe that being a probation officer is kind of, imagine it as a spectrum between being a cop and being a social worker. And then I'll ask them, which side of that spectrum do you fall on? And any smart candidate is going to tell me they fall in the middle, and then they're going to nuance it. I guess I can't use that question anymore. But the reality is what we're trying to do as part of our big picture vision at probation is we're trying to build up both extremes. We're really trying to have more professionalism on both sides of that spectrum. It's not as simple as saying we're in the middle, because we don't go to extremes. The reality is, I asked these guys, I asked, Tara, who's sitting here, I asked her to interact with some of these guys who've done heinous things that are unforgivable, and to treat them like a human being, and to have high levels of empathy and authenticity when running, courage to change groups and this kind of stuff. Well, at the same time, so that's one end of the spectrum, and I need them to go to those extremes that a lot of us wouldn't feel comfortable with. That's why a lot of people don't want to be probation officers. On the other end, complacency in law enforcement will get you killed. And I want to make sure that nobody on my team that I'm responsible for gets killed. So frankly, I'm asking you to arm our probation officers, the main point being probation officers are armed to play defense. This is about them being safe when they go out and do searches. We're arming them to play defense. This isn't about us having a cultural shift and becoming cowboys and going around with task forces knocking in doors. It's not really what I'm looking to accomplish. What I'm looking to accomplish is to give them another tool to keep them safe and make sure they go home at night. And with that, I'm going to ask Captain Macedo to come up briefly.
Good morning, Captain Jim Macedo with the Sheriff's Office. We are very supportive of the Chief's decision to arm probation officers within his agency. The Chief touched on backup and the length of time it takes to get backup or help. Some of these searches are done remotely. And if, to just step backwards a minute, we have a deputy sheriff assigned to the AB 109 team along with a probation officer, and they go out and do these visits and searches. When they end up in a confrontation, and I emphasize the word when because it's not an if, we do want both of them to be armed. We want that probation officer familiar with our tactics and our response. We want that probation officer to train with the employees of the Sheriff's Office so that we're familiar with one another. There's been a lot of work done in the past to make sure we're consistent with the type of weapons we're carrying and the pepper spray and some self and weaponless defense type programs, and this is kind of the last chapter in that. This has been a very long time coming, and for those of you that were around, this was a bone of contention and a very hot topic when AB 109 was passed and the Community Corrections Partnership in Calaveras County initially started having some discussions about how this plan should lay out. And I think the Chief put it very well. It is a defensive mechanism. It allows the probation officers placed into that dangerous environment to protect themselves. And this is not, a situation where, we're just going to protect that employee if they're ever involved in a confrontation. It is when these people do resist arrest, they do fight, and our employees are subject to armed attacks. So it is important that we give the county employees that we're charged with in going out and searching these folks and dealing with them the ability to protect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Captain Macedo. And with that, I just want to open myself up for questions. If you have any questions about process, financing,
Okay.
anything related.
Let me go to public comments. Okay. Public comments.
Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. We support the arming of these officers, and I'm not sure if the paperwork provides that there would be post-training. This is the training that policemen have that are going to be armed, special training. I think if that's not in there, that should be in there. Thank you.
I absolutely support the probation officers being armed. I'm a retired state parole agent for the California Youth Authority, and you know better than anybody, Supervisor Calaveras, that kids are so damn impulsive. You know, they'd rather cap you than not. And so we've always been armed. If you look at law enforcement and social work, that's me. The other 11 agents in my office, law enforcement. I used to tell them, why don't you go and get a job being a policeman or a deputy sheriff? That was our charge, was rehabbing folks. And that's the reason why I got into that business. And because of that, I was really surprised when I retired in 1995 and that probation officers here in this county were not armed. And so it's long overdue, and I totally support it.
Any other public comments? If not, bring it back to the board for discussion. Any board members would like to discuss this?
I have a couple comments. I was somewhat surprised. I assumed that our probation officers had carried a weapon, certainly safety in regards to them and with AB 109, so I support the policy. But I do have a question, since this is kind of a, I don't know if it's a change in role or not, but does this affect our MOUs at all with HR?
All the policies that are included with this packet were submitted to the union under the meet and confer, and they signed off on the policies.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I'm going to make this very short. As most know, I'm from a law enforcement background. The 21st of March was the anniversary of the murder of 4 Oakland police officers by probation. This is long overdue for this county. I'm glad that we can provide protection for our parole agents, our probation agents, to go home at night. And I fully endorse this.
Chief, it's just quickly, because there was a question sort of hinting at it, or flat out asking. It's not just as simple as handing them a firearm and pepper spray. There's a certification and regular training, and maybe it might be wise just to quickly highlight that.
Yeah, that's correct, Supervisor Kearney. The main requirement is that they go through the post-certified force and weaponry class, which is a 1-week class. At this point, 3 of my officers had already gone through that class prior to me being appointed chief, when the prior regime was trying to get some of the officers armed and bring the policy eventually forward. So that's kind of a starting point. I'm actually a little tougher on these guys, which they can view as good or bad. Frankly, the sheriffs and the police departments get a lot more tactical time than we do. And where they can specialize their training is different. For us, I feel like you need a lot of deliberate practice with this kind of thing. If you were going to take me out and try to get me armed today, I'd be a mess. Okay? And it's not as simple as learning to qualify at the range. It's really weapon retention. If I have somebody armed at the DRC, I better make sure that they can retain their weapon in a conflict, right? That they have a full range of use of force so that they're not a liability to us as far as going to excessive force. What else could I tell you in training? I'm expecting them, some departments qualify annually. I'm expecting quarterly qualification out of the people who are armed at my department, including night qualification at least once a year. Before we can even get close to arming them, fortunately, the Sheriff's Department's been great. I mean, they're allowing us to use their range for practice. They're allowing us to use their range master, a lot of great things. I mean, they've been very, very supportive, and I can't say enough about Sheriff Coombs and Captain Macito's support on this. Excuse me. So another thing that comes along with that is Eberhardt from I forget his rank. Sergeant Eberhardt has agreed to work with us on weaponless DTACs, defensive takedowns and whatnot. That's really important. But in addition to all that, I have to be me. So we're making a fairly big investment in motivational interviewing as well, and de-escalation training, and a lot of the verbal stuff, because frankly, to me, that's as important or more important than any of the stuff that comes after. So again, I'm trying to build up both ends of the spectrum. Shirley can attest, or she will be able to in a few weeks, that my proposed budget for next year has quite an increase in the training line item. No general fund increase. But, I'm big on training. I mean, I made my living doing training for 3 years before coming here. So it's really, really important. It can't all be done in a classroom, especially with this kind of stuff. But rest assured, even if they get through all of the training, there's a part of me that still says, and it's in the policy, I make the final call. And if I don't feel comfortable with them being armed, this is different than the Sheriff's Department. I have different assignments. I can have them writing court reports. I can have them running groups. Not everything is a law enforcement-oriented position. And frankly, part of the reason for that, Supervisor Kearney, in case anybody's wondering, not everybody at my department was hired to be armed. Not everybody wants to be armed. Not everybody should be armed. And that's the reality of what we're working with. We're transitioning toward the people that we're hiring. All of them need to pass the arming psych eval, all that kind of stuff. So we're planning for the future. But it is a transition, and we're making the best of what we have. And the training standards will be as high as our partners in Amador, who have, I think, one of the better probation training outlays. Are there other questions?
No, but I just want to thank you for your explanation, and I have to chime in with my colleague. When I read this, I said, oh, God, wow, they're not. So I had no idea either.
But your clientele has changed.
Yeah. Well, I was expecting it. And, I sat with you a couple of months ago, and we discussed this a little bit, and I see how you were very cautious but motivated, and which I don't blame you. I mean, it's a big responsibility. I don't think people realize the responsibility of being armed and having to do the public service that you and the sheriffs have to do. It's beyond what most of us, I think, can really think about as far as responsibility goes. So, I'm happy that you're bringing it forward. I knew that you were going to, and I'm glad that you're putting this much thought and effort into it for the safety of not only your employees, but also our employees, but also the public. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, do we have a motion to accept?
I so move.
Second?
Second the motion.
All right. So a motion by Supervisor Oliver and a second by Supervisor Kearney to approve the Probation Department's force and firearms policies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None opposed, so it moves forward. Congratulations, Sam. Item number 10, planning. Authorize the planning director to sign a memorandum of agreement between the county and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to update the flood insurance rate maps for the county, Calaveras County. Should be.
Good morning, Peter Maurer, Planning Director. Yay, they finally agreed. I think there's a lot of pressure from a number of different arenas, congressional office, my office, letter from the board, the public, and they finally agreed to do what we asked them to do. So this just starts the process rolling. The county's responsibility in this is to ensure that the public is notified and participates in the process. We'll make sure that we get that out early, and as the draft maps are rolled out, we will notify the people that are affected by those maps so they can look at them. We'll have a number of community workshops, and we've got money in our budget to do that. So we're happy we're finally moving forward with it, and request that you authorize my signature on the agreement.
Okay. I'd like to go to public comments. Public comments, please, on this.
David Tuno, Rancho Calaveras. First of all, I want to congratulate Peter Maurer and his department on getting something done that previous iterations the department heads have not been able to do for the past several years. It's a big deal. When I read the discussion summary that I presume that Peter and or Megan prepared, it's nice, clear, plain English, and it addresses the issues that, as we've been told they were with respect to the DWR maps and whatnot. So this I get. But then when I read the MOA, there doesn't appear to be any correlation between the two. The MOA talks about proof panels and panels of different kinds, and an upper reach analysis, and a Zone A revision, and a main stem study, and an upper reach analysis, and a number of things that I don't know that means the DWR maps are now gone. So if the public can be assured that what this MOA is FEMA speak for what Mr. Maurer presumably has written here in plain English, then fine. I'll be satisfied that at long last we've accomplished it. But it's not plain from reading this, or at least not to a simple person like myself. There is one item here that I had a special question about, and that is item number 2, that FEMA will undertake a quality assurance and quality control process for the Atkins study. Now, I'm wondering how much authority and how much power that's giving FEMA, an agency I don't trust, frankly. Other than that, once again, congratulations. Oh, yeah, I had another couple of questions here. Pardon me. Is there an estimate of how many parcels of the approximately 5,000 that FEMA added through this process, how many of those we would know that would drop out by virtue of this change? Do we have any kind of a ballpark figure on that? That already didn't drop out from the Lake Tulloch agreement that was arrived at a year or so ago. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other public comments? Peter?
To the best of my knowledge, that's FEMA speak for what we agreed we would do. We had a very lengthy meeting with about a dozen members of FEMA staff and went over what we were trying to accomplish. And this MOA is intended to represent that discussion, and it was to replace the awareness mapping with the 2 new products that but the studies, the LIDAR mapping as well as the Atkins study, and it addresses 2 different areas of the flood mapping components. So that's why there's 2 different studies. One is for the upper reaches, one is for the main stems. We do not have a number of how many lots will drop out at this point in time. And what other question?
But Peter, as we go through these workshops, though, we should be able to bring that out.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And also,
as we get the drafts, we'll see where the changes are. We can then identify which lots are out, which lots are still in. My intent is to provide direct notice to all the property owners that are affected by the maps and to make sure they have an opportunity to review, comment, and we'll verify prior to adoption of the new maps that these are as accurate as we can make them.
Okay, and then also, isn't there a process that we're going to be using now to be able to, an easy process for property owners to come forward if they should feel that that they shouldn't be in the FEMA process?
There is a process that exists today. We've been utilizing it. It's called Out as Shown, and it is a simplified way to document that even though there is a flood zone shown on your property, it's clear just from the basic information we have that the location of the structure or the proposed building site is out of the floodplain. It's several, in some cases, dozens of feet above the flood level, and it's clearly out. It's just sort of an inaccuracy in the mapping, and we've done a number of those already.
Okay, now that's without a surveyor?
Right.
Okay. All right. David wants to talk again. Could you stand up, please, David? David, come up here so that it can be recorded.
The one hanging question was the FEMA's oversight, Q&A versus vis-a-vis the Atkins study. Can we have an explanation for that? And then I have one more comment when he's done, if you don't mind.
My understanding is they want to make sure that they can, that their engineers look at it and it's acceptable format for their adoption. It's not something that they had initiated, and so they're just reviewing that to ensure that they can rely on that. I don't see any problem with it.
Okay, so the MOA then is really pursuant to their review of Atkins to make sure that it complies with their standards. So it's kind of preliminary in that sense. One other idea that I had, that with respect to the property owners who may yet believe that they should not be in the flood zone, where they're still in it by virtue of the new standards. Is it possible that the county could retain the services of an engineering firm, pass on the costs of that contract with them to get a bulk rate, so to speak, a reduced rate for property owners to utilize the services of that engineering surveying firm, where the county would sort of guarantee them a lot of customers for a reduced rate. You pass on the cost to the property owner, but the property owner is getting a break versus going out and finding their own engineer at some of the going rates that I've heard of in the past, ballpark, couple $1,000, something like that. They could still do that if they wanted to, but they could get a better deal by going through the county's contracted engineering firm or somebody that the county could have a relationship with, whereby they get this reduced rate by sort of passing along a lot of customers to that firm. I don't know if such an arrangement could be arrived at, but I'd like to see the county property owners get a break on this engineering work that still would need to be done for many of them.
You mean a recommended vendor?
Yeah, maybe that would be the relationship, whereby if the entity received recommended vendor status from the county, they would do so with a quid pro quo would be they give our people a break on the rates. As long as that's a real break and our people get a deal, then that would be something worth pursuing. If there's any model for that that's been done that you might know of, I'd like to see our people not have to go out there and find their own guy, look in the yellow pages, but have some reliable source, the county, and an approved vendor and somebody who's giving our people a break because of that status that they've been given.
I don't think we can do that as a county. We can't pick one vendor over another.
But you could contract.
Well, we'd have to see about that.
Well, my initial concern with something like that is that the county would essentially be endorsing one vendor over another.
Well, we do that all the time on various things.
Well, essentially, we would be saying we recommend that you use this person, which we don't do for a private entity or private person to go and then use that person's services.
I see your problem.
So if for whatever reason the private person is dissatisfied, if they would then come back and say, well, I only used them because the county recommended it, I see there as being a potential issue there. It is something that certainly staff, if the board would like staff to look into it, we could look into it in greater detail.
Let me, as an alternative, let me ask you this. Is there a place that people can go right now, maybe on the website, where they can say, here are the people that the county knows about that are at least qualified to do this kind of work? Is there a clearinghouse, so to speak, a one-stop information center for that kind of service?
Quite honestly, I don't know.
There would be no liability on the part of the county for doing that, I don't think.
I may have some information. I believe all certified surveyors are certified by the state. So anybody that has a certification from the state of California to perform surveying.
Sure, but
That's
a
kind of
person
your
from
clearinghouse.
Calaveras County wouldn't hire a surveyor from San Luis Obispo.
You'd be surprised, Mr. Chairman.
Well, okay.
a lot of part-time residents, especially up in my district, they'll contract with people or request suggestions from various sources, but I don't think the county would be in a position, correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, that if we recommended one or two even firms, if they had a conflict.
Take the word recommendation out of it, Mr. Oliver. Just take the word recommendation out of it. Just these are people that are certified, that are within a 100-mile radius, 50-mile radius, something like that.
I see your point, and I agree with your point to an extent. Problem is, as counsel said, we really can't be part of that process should there be a conflict in their findings on some cases.
There could potentially be an alternative that if directed to, we can work with staff to maybe compile a list that the vendor would be voluntarily willing to be added to a list. And it's just purely a list. We are not making any recommendation, any endorsement.
Yeah.
But that they are a list of licensed surveyors in the area that have provided these services to other residents within the county.
Yeah, I think that could be a fairly clean process.
We're trying to actually minimize that by utilizing the process that they currently have in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I asked the question: how many of the 5,000 are going to drop out automatically in the out as shown status that Mr. Maurer explained? But it's nevertheless a formula. It's a formula that's not arrived at by boots on the ground on a parcel of land showing the elevation of a house versus the elevation of the possible flood zone. It's still not that. And so there's going to be you're still going to have a lot of people, I would suspect hundreds, that are still going to have to go through this process.
Thank you.
We have a list of qualified consultants, and that's certainly something as we update that list we could add. I don't know if we have engineers or hydrologists that do this kind of work already on that list, but I know that we do have, for example, environmental consultants that we say, here are the ones that we've reviewed and we find them qualified, that they've submitted their RFQs to us, and we periodically update that list. So that's something we can look into. Mr. Tuno's right that there will be people who will still be affected by the flood zones. They will need to get LOMERs or flood elevation certificates, whatever the various documents are necessary to qualify to either not have to pay flood insurance or demonstrate that their construction is above the base flood elevation. So there is work that will be necessary for homeowners, and that kind of consultant list probably would be beneficial. So you can consider that.
That's not online though, Peter, is it? It's just somebody asks you and you've got a list and you hand it to them, correct?
Right. And right now it's limited to the more typical kind of planning consultant work that we do with environmental consultants.
And I just want to clarify, that list would be for entities that would be actually providing service to the county, not to the developer. The developer would essentially be paying for the environmental review.
Right.
And the environmental review would be a document that is a county document. So essentially the consultant is providing a service to the county, not to a private person.
And it's hard to keep track of all the different consulting firms that are out there. Someone who hangs a shingle, got his license, wants to do work, and is not on our list. I don't want to be favoring any other private entities. We try not to we don't make recommendations, and try to limit that exposure.
Thank you, Peter.
Marty Crane. I was just thinking about what we're just now talking about here with regard to the people finding a common source for assistance. I don't think there's anything stopping the people from coming together on their own and putting up a little website or something and letting people know that it's there, and they can go to experiences with different surveyors and experts. Also, considering, I appreciate what Mr. Juneau said about the two different documents and wondering, what is this just FEMA speak? And then Mr. Maurer responded, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, this is, and considering the conversations that they've had, extensive conversations, it just occurred to me that is there some value perhaps in having this MOU reviewed by people with specific expertise in flooding, in our watersheds, in our forests, so that we know, I mean, I'm sure that county council has looked at it, but considering our level of trust, if you will, with FEMA, I just feel like if you're sitting in a room with someone and it's FEMA and all their high-priced suits and stuff, and they're convincing us that, yes, this is exactly what you're saying, and we're going, I would just, feels like an expert, in that field should be reviewing it as well. That's all. Thank you.
Scala Taxpayer Association. I'm grateful for our planning director, the work he's done. He's done more in a short period of time than it's been done in several years. And also I'm grateful for David Tuno and work he's done to bring this forward to the public in the form of education. It appears that the county and FEMA are basically responsible for this problem. The county approved some maps that no other county would approve and should have known better. And as a consequence of that, there's maybe thousands of people, well, maybe not thousands, certainly hundreds of people that have a real problem, and the amount of those people are still not known, because all we have a list of their AP numbers and names, and there hasn't been work to go over that and see how many of those are really flood areas or not. And so since the county does have a responsibility, and which it's starting to exercise right now, perhaps it would be proper for the county surveyor be directed to help those people that have a problem with the FEMA maps. And the cost of this shouldn't be borne by our local taxpayers in the general fund. It should be borne by FEMA. So you should make every effort to make sure that the people have the help, and then also appeal to FEMA and try to appeal to their goodwill, perhaps, to pay for the cost of doing this, because they are primarily responsible. The county has secondary responsibility, and the property owner has no responsibility for what's been happening here. Does that make sense? Thank you.
Peter Reyes, gentlemen. Peter, thank you. Folks, thank you. Good job. What I would, hopefully it's all the folks know by now about Prop 8. They should encourage them to go back to the assessment, property assessment reduction. It's not going to compensate them for what they've been paying, especially the one who fought it. But they had to find somebody who worked for FEMA to give them an absence, that they had to prove that to this agency. To get compensation from FEMA, good luck. It's a class action suit, you know. And those people that got this FEMA business started, they got the due coming. Not one principals involved in FEMA getting in here is in business anymore. I don't care if it's a congressman or local supervisors, okay? But that we can deal with later on. But those people, FEMA made 15% commission. It's a good incentive to get your property into the flood zone. Those folks who got stuck and put in a bounty shafted by FEMA and the cooperative supervisors in principle, they should be helped because their property value went down, surrounding areas' property value down. If you're in a flood zone, you're in a flood zone, you disclose it, your property doesn't worth as much. And their property tax can be adjusted. Prop 8. They have to come from the board or whoever makes that, the board that has, when you have a conflict, a variation of your property, they have a recourse. Unless the only other way you can get any kind of satisfaction from FEMA, fire the SOBs who run FEMA. And those are elected officials, Congress, Senate, and etc. Don't hold grudges, just get even. Remember how they got in here and who runs FEMA. And fortunately, we had some changes up in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure they're going to be more cooperative, but there's not going to compensate you taxpayers for what losses they got from this little BS that FEMA pulled on this county. So, one is Prop 8. Let that property be reassessed to the proper level. Thank you. And after that, it's all going to be political dirty works that's going to be handled behind the scene. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Debbie?
I have a comment. Peter, this agreement, it looks like, goes through December 31st, 2016. If we're not able to accomplish the work in this agreement, is there possibilities for extensions, or are you confident that?
That's the outside estimate of the time it's going to take to complete this process. I'm sure that if we need to, we can extend it.
Okay. And how will you notify people? How will that notification come about? Do you have any ideas to that?
I anticipate that we'll send mailed notice to the individual property owners that are affected by the change, as well as do as much general outreach as we can through the newspaper and public noticing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? No. I have comments. I want to thank Peter and his staff for taking this on, and the many folks of the public that pushed for all these years. Peter heard him, we heard him. And David, I know that Mr. Tuno, I want to thank Mr. Tuno, but he's like the FEMA expert, for most folks out there, and for, a lot of good advice for us too. So this is a pretty big deal, and I'm looking forward to these public workshops and just getting past this, and so that we can say that we crossed another good one off. So thank you very much, Peter, for taking this on. So I'd like to bring it back to the board, and I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte to approve and authorize the planning director to sign a memorandum of agreement between the county and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to update the flood insurance rate maps for the county. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So it moves on. It moves forward 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Maurer.
Well, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 11, Administrative Office, appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas.
Thank you, Chair Edson. This is appointment of applicants to serve specific terms for 3 entities. The first is Diamond 20 Community Service Area CSA 4. There's 2 vacancies for terms expiring 12/31/18. Gene Kennedy, incumbent. Robert Toynbee, incumbent. Murphy Cemetery District, 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending 12/31/17. S. Guy Puccia. Peg TV Commission District 4, 1 vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/16. Ed Guzin, incumbent.
Okay. Any public comments on this?
Got a question? Talking with some folks at CSA 1 Service District, I don't know, you all in charge of it, by the way, knowing and unknowingly, is that when they drive a car to survey streets as a committee members, how much coverage does the county has on those folks as a committee members when they drive up and down the street in their own car, their own expense? Is there any insurance on them? Thank you.
We all get to look at Megan.
Yeah. We're looking at each other.
Yeah.
They're covered under their own auto insurance policy. County employees, if they use their car, they apply for reimbursement, and that reimbursement for mileage includes gas, oil, maintenance of equipment, and insurance on their vehicles. Now, whether they choose to claim reimbursement of mileage, but it depends if you're talking in the position of on serving on the CSA.
CSA 1, the folks.
So what other, besides attending meetings, and would they be doing on business?
Right. I guess I'm not following. You're asking about their traveling to and from meetings?
No, when they do what they volunteer to do in their vehicle.
Now, keep in mind that most all of these committees and commissions are
CSA 1.
Well, CSA 1 is not on today's agenda. There's CSA 4, there's Cemetery District, and there's PEG TV Commission.
Okay.
And typically, it's my understanding with CSAs, typically they meet in their district, so there's not going to be a large amount of travel time to and from the residents.
No. I'm sorry, I apologize. I did not make myself clear. When they inspect roads on behalf of their committee as a recognized body, they inspect the road to advise Public Works
They will drive the road up and down to inspect road and report back for Public Works where work should be done.
I think what Peter's referring to, as I'm getting to know these committees better myself, typically the members of these committees, and I'm just referring to the one I know, but I suspect they're all fairly similar. They'll look at their sphere of influence that they're assigned to, and one will say, this is your section, that's your section, that's your section. And so if there's 5 members on the committee, they kind of have to divvy it up in 5 general areas, and then they get a call from somebody, so there's a pothole on XYZ road, and they go look at that. And what Peter's asking is, when they go look at these or when they're surveying their area, are we indemnified with insurance, or do we have insurance on them?
Who has the liability? Because they're representing you 5 and the county. You charge them, okay? But they go out and inspect the road, report back to the committee, and the committee tell Public Works where the problems are, potholes and etc.
As this item is not on the agenda, I will need to check with risk management.
Thank you. Please. There's going to be a lot more question on CSC one. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any comments from the board?
I do have a question, Chair Edson. I'm not familiar with the Murphy Cemetery District requirements for membership on that committee. Is there any requirement to be a member of that district, or is it in that large position? Does anybody know?
I don't have the bylaws in front of me, but my belief would be, and I can verify this for you, Supervisor Oliveira, is that they would have to reside in the district.
Then my second question would be, can someone tell me what the confines of the district of the Murphy Cemetery District is?
No.
Not off the top.
I'm just bringing a point of,
What's the name?
The applicant has an address in Arnold, and I don't know if the Murphy Cemetery District extends to Arnold. It does? Okay, well, if it does, I have no problem.
I would suggest approving it because it's good to have volunteers for the cemetery district. And
I will consider
the
that.
problem.
We'll consider that. Supervisor, right?
I'm just based my own cemetery district. My own.
No offense intended.
Supervisor Oliveira, this is an incumbent, so I assume that...
Okay, settle my question.
To my knowledge, it almost goes to the county line.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's the only cemetery in your district.
Oh, I thought you were saying sanitary district.
Yeah.
Cemetery.
Okay, so can I have a motion on this item, please?
I move we approve the applicants for the committees, commissions, advisory board, and county service areas.
Okay. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
All right, so we have a motion by Supervisor Kearney and a second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None noted. So first forward. All right. Board member announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D. This is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as county supervisor. Who would like to go first?
I have a couple questions. I don't expect answers today, but anyway, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the postcard that went out from the planning department in regards to how many went out, the kinds of phone calls and responses and that sort of thing. So just a very kind of brief overview on that to see if it's successful and if it's something we want to continue in the future as we try to notify folks of various changes. The other thing is I look at the tentative schedule. I know we're working on dates for various joint meetings with Planning Commission and Board. I would just ask that we be contemplating these dates and get it on this tentative schedule. I would ask that we add our board budget meetings on this particular schedule. I know for me personally, as we move into the month of May, it's a blur between...
Actually, I'd like to ask that. That's on my list. Do we have a date set? It's usually in June, right?
It's the second week of June. We usually
Yeah.
do it.
So
We
So the
usually
dates-
begin the budget hearings with the first board meeting in June that afternoon. The CAO will do the presentation on the budget, and then the remainder of the week will be spent in budget hearings.
So 9 through 12, basically.
Basically.
Set aside. Okay.
Yeah. So just to get these dates on here, it's just helpful for the public to be aware as well. And I know we're going to have a joint board and planning meeting. And like I say, the month of May, it gets very busy with frog jump and end of school activities and just all sorts of things. Let's see, yesterday there was a child support meeting that was canceled. There was no business that needed to be discussed. The next meeting will be the fourth Monday in April, and that meeting will be held here in San Andreas. Every quarter it's held with an in-person meeting, and the alternate months are teleconferences. We have our first meeting of IHSS scheduled for Monday the 30th at 10 o'clock at the CalWorks building, and I'll be attending. We have a COG meeting on the 1st of April at 6:30. I did make a recommendation to COG that we move this meeting up earlier in the day to accommodate a variety of things. We meet at 6:30 here at night, and so we'll have that on the agenda for discussion. And since our transportation shuts off around the 6 o'clock hour, perhaps some people might attend our meeting more if they can use public transit to reach our meetings. On the 28th, this Saturday, kind of as a follow-up to the Lake Tulloch meeting that was held here with Tri-Dams a couple of weeks ago, a group of folks under the name of, or organization of Lake Tulloch Alliance has put together, as they've labeled it, a water crisis meeting. We have our representative McClintock, and I believe Bigelow and Berryhill have been invited. I understand Bigelow is coming, along with some biologists and other kinds of elected officials to meet to discuss from here on out how to approach legislation in regards to fish flows during dry and drought years, and kind of just an overall policy discussion and development for some possible future work. I'm not able to attend as I am going to be out of the state for 4 or 5 days.
What day is that?
It's Saturday, the 28th at 10 o'clock. So I'm inviting my colleagues to come to that meeting. It's at the Black Creek Park. So it won't necessarily be on the panel. The panel right now is focused of our federal and state folks, but they are looking for some county representation to be present. That's on the 28th.
And where's that at?
At Black Creek Park, off of Copper Cove Drive in Copperopolis. EMS, Valley Mountain EMS meeting, I will be attending on the 8th of April at 9 o'clock at the Copper Firehouse. And my counterpart from Tuolumne County and myself, along with our various public work agencies, will be meeting with Tri-Dam at the O'Burns Ferry Bridge site, Calaveras site, on the 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning to review. Apparently there are parking and trespassing type issues that go on both sides of the river in and around the bridge area. So they want to kind of work together and come up with a solution on how to address that. Apparently this has been an ongoing concern for years, and they're at a position to do something about it, especially if we lower levels of the lake. They feel that it'll be more of a dangerous situation of people accessing the lake at that location. So we'll be doing that on the 9th of April. As Dennis made mention earlier, we had a joint meeting of Highway 4 water agencies and the sewer agencies. We're having a follow-up meeting that's scheduled now for April 2nd at the 6 o'clock hour. And we look forward to identifying a couple of projects that we can work on as a group and be moving forward in some of those endeavors. So it was a very good first meeting to get off the ground and pull everybody together. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay. Supervisor Olvera?
Thank you, Chair. On the 17th, I attended the search and rescue week-long training provided by the state of California. It was held at the Murphy's Lodge. We had representation there from far away as sheriff's departments from Ventura County, El Dorado County. Of course, our own search and rescue team was there, all our civilians. Was able to address the folks there for a few moments in between classes, and I was very proud of our county to host this particular location, this type of training. I understand that it was well attended and funded by the state through our grants. On the 18th, I attended the Emergency Operations Services meeting here. It was at the Board of Directors, and we had attendance from our various fire departments, our various sheriff's departments, more of a coordinating meeting for the year, and I was very proud to be part of that committee to see what actually happens and where our efforts are needed and where they fulfill those. So that was pretty interesting for me. I attended the Calaveras County Taxpayers Association luncheon, honoring our board clerk, Diane. That was a very good time. Thank you very much, Al, for putting that on. I was very impressed. I did stop by the premiere of the Cal Waste video that was produced using our school children in Calaveras County. And I'm going to try to get a copy of that. Cal Waste went over and did a production where it uses our students talking about recycling programs in Calaveras County, and they use students from every elementary school in our county, all the way from West Point down to Copperopolis, down to Arnold, Valley Springs, and Burson. Very good joint effort actually not even a joint effort, it was done totally by Cal Waste. And it was done for a promotional piece to educate through our children, our parents, about recycling. So I was pretty impressed with that. I have attended several meetings. So there are some organizations being formed now in District 3, up in the Arnold area and the Murphys area. One of those organizations is the Adventure and Arts Organization. They're going to be holding a function on the 20th of June that is going to be geared towards the adventurous things you can do in Calaveras County, specifically up in the District 3 area, coming down from Angels Camp up. They're also going to be including local artists and other artists to this function. It's not going to be an arts and crafts show per se, but they're going to be dealing with the performing arts. They'll be dealing with of course, the other media of arts that flock to this type of organization. I have been meeting with, and my other colleagues have been attending the United States Forest Service snowmobile draft that they have planned, and we were pretty interested in what was going to happen up in our neighboring county of Alpine County and Calaveras County when it comes to snowmobiling. They're putting together a program right now, their forest management programs, and they asked for our input and attendance. I think we will be attending a meeting with the Forest Service Supervisor Edson and I here in a very short future. I believe it's the 7th. April 7th. Other than that, unfortunately, I will not be in town this weekend. I did want to make the meeting that Supervisor Ponte mentioned regarding the Copperopolis meeting on Saturday. And I will be out of state myself, meeting with people that desire and interest to bring some activities to our locality. So we'll be able to handle that. That's about it. Thank you.
On March 16th, in the evening, I attended a meeting at the Rancho Calaveras Clubhouse Sportsman's Group. There was a presentation made about a proposed shooting center. I was updated on that. It was done by Dave Tanner. The next day, on the 17th, I took a day-long tour of our Cal Waste facility in the county, as well as the facility that they have in Gulf, California. I'm probably chiming in with what everybody else said. It was quite a day. It is a state-of-the-art facility. And further, anybody that's listening, whether on tape or here, you can take a tour of that facility. You don't have to be a supervisor, and I encourage everybody to do that. That'll give you a good understanding of what's going on. If you need me to help you make a connection, I'd be glad to do that. On the following day, we obviously had our special board meeting, but that evening I was filmed by the cable TV network and Mr. Ed Lark and his crew. And the next day, there was so much happening on Thursday, it was hard to know where to go, and unfortunately I couldn't go to your lunch hour, sorry. But I couldn't hold my office hours either. What I did do is I went to a meeting of the Hardwoods Advisory Committee. I'd never been to one of those before. It was very informative. It's very appropriate to stay informed of that in our county. Was glad that I went there. I am scheduled this Saturday to throw the first ball out at the Little League opener. I haven't thrown a ball since I separated my right shoulder, so please no one be there with a video camera. I do not want to end up on YouTube and be humiliated by Little League players.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. There are a couple of rules and procedures that I'd like to address, and I'd like to know how to go about that. I'd like to consider how we hear our consent agenda, and today was a perfect example. While we had items pulled on the consent agenda, even though it says at the top it's supposed to be non-controversial, we had 7 employees sitting in the audience while we hashed those things out. And today was very quickly, but sometimes we're keeping our employees waiting for the regular agenda items or even visiting people. And I would like to consider, have a time when that is set on how we hear the order of our agenda items. And maybe that should even be heard at the end of our meeting instead of at the beginning. I do support people's participation in our process, but I also want to use the county's labor wisely. And also, I stumbled on the term abstention a couple of meetings ago. I perfectly understand what the legal definition of abstain is. We don't use it correctly here. I understand why that was corrected many years ago, but I'd like to revisit that and put it so that somebody that visits here will understand what abstention means, just as it does in any other municipality. There were a couple things that came up today, and I would like to be considered. It's been asked before, even though it wasn't brought up today, it's never left my mind. Could we possibly get a binder or something that we could leave out front before these meetings with a hard copy of our agenda in it? It's been brought up before. Today there were questions asked where if they would have had access to it.
Sorry, just to clarify, you don't mean the agenda with the staff report?
The agenda as presented.
Well, this is the agenda. Is this what you mean?
Well, with the information in it that we're getting.
Right, that's the staff report.
Yeah. Is that available, or could we put that in a hard copy out there?
Well, it is available in the admin office that they can go and see prior to the meeting, leading up to the meeting at any time it's available to the
Can we leave a copy out in front here? Is that possible? There were questions asked today they could have been answered if they would have looked at what we know.
It's possible, but the hope for going to the electronic agenda system was that we
Would not have to do that.
Exactly. And that is why we have the computer, the iPad in the administrative office, and here a half hour normally before the board meeting, so that if they want to look at any of those items, they can.
Then I wonder, for the people who may not have internet access at home, and maybe this is a pie-in-the-sky thought, and I'll just leave it hang out there. Is it possible that we could put a terminal out there that they can look at, and you don't have to do anything? Anything's possible, I know in the right.
We would have to look whether there's connectivity and what that would mean and how we secure that. But we can definitely look into the ability to do that.
Well, today we spent about 20 minutes on discussing a consent agenda item that was answered in our staff report.
But they'll still, a lot of times people will bring it up anyhow, just to talk about it in public.
I understand that, but at least they would have had the option.
I just want to make it clear also, I believe that Ms. Severud has also offered her iPad in the morning before the meeting, so any member of the public who would like to see an item can talk to her and review the item on her iPad before the meeting. It's just a matter of them reaching out to her.
Okay, I won't beat it to death anymore, but...
That's another option.
Okay, thanks. And one other thing that was brought up when we went to CSAC, they did quite a presentation on budgets, and I know that it's an issue. I've sat through budget hearings also. They did budget workshops with specific departments. I don't know exactly, I'm not an expert on it, and I'm not going to pretend to be. But they had, basically the way they presented it is if they did a workshop with the department and their budget prior to the budget coming through, then the budget really wasn't a discussion. It was like a very quick presentation and a vote, yes, we approve it, because everything had been worked out prior. Do you remember when we were talking about that? Yeah. And it seemed like basically a lot of the discussions that are sort of lumped on top of the budget process had already been taken care of. It's just a thought. I won't push it hard right now. I know it's a monumental task when you undertake it, but it might be something to consider.
So are you talking budget workshops with departments with the Board of Supervisors prior to?
That's what they said. Yeah, it would be probably at a meeting like maybe the month before we've got them coming forward and worked it out.
We would then need to start the budget process even earlier than we currently do in order to accommodate that. Budgets are due to our office on April 1st, and then our department, in conjunction with HR and the auditor's office, sit down and review those budgets. We meet with the departments. We hope that we come to an understanding and agreement on what we put forth. There's always requests that those departments have above and beyond what we're recommending, and that's where they're addressed during the budget hearing. There's nothing to stop us from looking at the budget process and doing it a different way, but again, be aware that it's going to be more time consuming on the front end, and we will have to start the process earlier.
Let me research it a little bit more, and I'm going to get back to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Supervisor Wright?
Sure, just a couple of quick things. First of all, thanks for letting me know the budget hearings dates. So I went to a Sear Business Council Green Drinks event. It was also around the river reflection. It's a really great art exhibit around the McCollum River. That same night, I went to Railroad Flat Town Hall addressing the community plan and the lack of community plan in the general plan. And in fact, that's kind of one of the big topics going on, especially in my district. I received letters from Wilseyville and Mokill. It's in your guys' packet there, so take a look at that. And it's really one one of the biggest things happening is trying to get those community plans back to the general plan. So I get a lot of discussion around that. And I also attended the Hardwood Advisory Committee. And a lot of really smart people at that committee hearing, so it was very informative.
Chris, is the art exhibit in Moke Hill?
It's still at the Hotel de Jay, yeah. And I think through this weekend, maybe? I'm not sure.
Okay. I attended that as well. So on the 19th, I went to the taxpayers luncheon. I was given the honor to present the certificates from Senator Berryhill and Assemblyman Bigelow to Diane for her exemplary service. Also on the 19th, I had an executive chamber meeting just after that. That's why I ran out of there, Al. And then later on that day, I also had a chamber board meeting, and then it went on into the evening with a chamber mixer. So by the time I got home, I was really chambered out. But the chamber mixer was at Salon Chic in Valley Springs. Salon Chic also won the award, Entrepreneur of the Year award from the Chamber of Commerce. She's a really great little outfit there and in Valley Springs. On the 20th, I set up sound for the trivia bee, and I heard that our county folks here had a team, but they didn't win. So that means they're not watching a lot of TV. They're probably working doing county business, so that's really great. Who's the winner that night? Do you remember?
I think it was 2 girls and a dude, but I'm not sure.
2 girls and a dude. Okay. That's pretty clear.
That was the name of the team.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
That's better. That's better. 2 girls and a dude won, I guess, the trivia bee on the 20th. So 23rd, which was yesterday, I came in here for an agenda review, and that was really easy. That was, and I was on time for once. That was good. And then after that, I went to town hall for FCC meeting. Marty was there, and a few other members of the public discussing. From what I got from it was, what can the FCC do for you, basically. And also, the CPUC was there, right? Did they have a member as well? And so, they're having these meetings, these public meetings, and they're kind of wondering how can we do some public outreach. And I suggested that maybe they should come to the Board of Supervisors and get on the agenda. That would be a good choice because we, there's a lot of folks that listen to this in the public, and we record it, and it goes on TV and all those other good things. The newspapers media is usually here, so I'm hoping that they take that into an account. Maybe we can have a public workshop here, which I think would be a really good idea. And they were discussing the CBIN line and just broadband in general. And then I complained, of course, about our cell phone coverage in Valley Springs and some of the areas around here that we absolutely should have coverage. And so we'll see how much that gets us. Later on, went to Sacramento to the support of AB 142. And that was an interesting experience for me. It's the first time I've been into a chamber meeting like that with the Assembly Natural Resources Committee. And they do things rather quickly there. Pretty interesting. Anyhow, so there was amendments to the bill, but it did pass. And it moves on to the next process. I think it's appropriations now, right? It goes to appropriations. And then after I came back from Sacramento, I went to down to the pizza factory in Valley Springs and had a Calaveras Has Talent meeting. And our next meeting for Calaveras Has Talent is April 6th at 5:30 at the Pizza Factory. And that's a countywide program that we'll be doing to help fund some of the music programs, or all of the music programs in the county. So this is a fundraiser for that. And it's a countywide talent program. There's going to be 2 categories, ages 13 and down and 14 and up. So, Peter, you should get out there and sing a song.
I'll answer the chamber.
Yeah, there you go. And then, so today I'm going to, after this, I have a presentation to give on the watershed management program to the Utica Power Authority. And on the 26th, I'm going to the Tuolumne Board of Supervisors has their water committee, and so I will be giving that watershed management program presentation to them as well on the 26th. On the 26th, also we have a historical society dinner here, and then on the 27th, the senior citizens, our senior SOS dinner is going to be here at San Andreas. Please come and try to help support that our senior programs here. It's really a great deal. And then on the 21st of April, I will be giving to the Tuolumne Board of Supervisors Watershed Management Program and asking for their support as well. So that's all I have.
If I may bring up a couple of issues with the board. One is the discussion on the meeting of March 31st. It's an evening meeting. The deadline has passed for departments to submit agenda items for that meeting. There were 3 items. They are consent items. One is an appointment to the committees, commissions, and the other 2, one is a refund for a solid waste fee and a contract with the Sheriff's Department. I talked to both Public Works and with the Sheriff's Department, and they are good with moving those items to the first board meeting in April. Seeing that the agenda is very slim, almost anorexic, would the board like to cancel the meeting of the 31st?
I'm just going to pull the board and ask, there's resources that really we could not have to use and just have a full agenda.
I wouldn't object to cancel the meeting, seeing that the agenda is going to be that short. Or we can move those items over to the next meeting.
This is an evening meeting?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, trust me, I hated to even talk about giving it up because we committed to that. But I can't see coming in here for a half-hour meeting and then gathering everybody and then and plus the people that are going to be driving for that. There's just not the agenda items on the docket. So
I agree.
And none of these items that are on the upcoming item list can be moved forward?
Not at this late date.
it's quite a process around these agendas. And putting, the things on the...
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. I'd like to know how the public feels about it.
We had a question last week about how much it costs to run meetings. That would be a good place to start.
So I'm talking about this meeting coming up, the evening meeting. Is there any public comments on that?
No objection.
No objection?
Try to call the schools and see if they have any plans for them.
Yeah.
And they have a big thing for them.
Yeah, part of the reason for having when there's the 5th meeting in the month is to get the high school kids to...
Right. So we're going to put a little we're going to put it up and publicize it, right?
We'll put a notice on the website that the meeting has been canceled, and we'll put it out to the papers.
But I would agree with saying the money.
Okay, well, we're all looking at the money, but this has been an ongoing conversation for a number of years, trying to get the night meetings. And as soon as we finally did it, this place was packed. And we didn't know they were coming, but people came. And so I'm just thinking if you just put it out there and cancel it, then it's done. But because they're not every month, they're like quarterly, they may have nothing planned, but maybe they have been working up towards making presentations. And I think we should at least ask them before you do it. I'm all for not having a meeting when we don't need to. We called a special meeting last week, and that costs money. So, but I'm just saying we should at least put in the phone call and ask.
Would it be impossible to notice our second meeting in April as a night meeting if there are people that are having issues with it?
Well, that would bring me to my second question, and that and that's regarding, as you'll recall at the last COG meeting, there was direction to do a joint meeting between the City of Angels Camp and the Board of Supervisors for discussion of transit issues. Public Works and COG would like that meeting to occur prior to the end of April. And so then again, would you want to do that in conjunction with the April 28th meeting, meaning that you have your regular board meeting, adjourn, and then meet with the City Council? I know that Supervisor Ponte mentioned the desire to have that joint meeting in Angels Camp. I know that the City Council meets at the firehouse, which could be a challenge if there's numerous people there. So I would need to work with the City of Angels to determine if there is another location that could accommodate. And I just wanted direction from the board whether the meeting of April 28th would be a good date to work with the city and see if we can get their buy-in. And then you may have a combo day and evening meeting.
Well, yeah, but I would like the meetings here. We have the facility for it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hang on, let us discuss this a little bit first.
I'm sorry?
Let us discuss this a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thought you might be done.
So that's not just how I feel about it.
Can we go back to the meeting schedule for the 31st? Did we decide what we're going to do there?
I think, yeah.
Well, the question came up by Supervisor Kearney if we could do a night meeting at the second meeting in April if there was a desire to have an evening meeting. And I did want to inform the board that and ask the board if they wanted to do that joint meeting between the city and the county on that day.
Okay. So no, that's not possible. You answered the question. Thank you.
Well, we could do the night meeting on the 28th, though, with the joint meeting with Angels, and we can just do it here.
Oh,
Yeah, we could.
28th of April?
Yeah. Okay. That works.
Yeah, and I think the city council members would be okay with driving to San Andreas. I would agree this room is a little bit more conducive for a larger governing body to be able to meet, the microphone, CCTV, etc. It is possible too. I think the City of Angels meetings are on the first and the third Tuesday, so may not necessarily need to be a night meeting to accommodate their schedule, but it would be something that maybe you and the administrator there could work out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I will go ahead and make contact and try and arrange that meeting.
And we'll try to make it a night meeting too. That way we can kill two birds with one stone.
Do they have night meetings, Debbie?
Who's that?
City of Angels?
Yes,
have
they
night
do.
meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's fine with me. Okay, that way we kind of still keep our main meeting.
Yeah. It accommodates anybody who might be disappointed that they, okay.
So I think Marty brings up a good point, though. We should probably contact school admin and let them know that what's going to occur here.
We can reach out to the schools.
Nobody's there this week.
Yeah,
We still reach out.
They are at Bret Hart.
There's work.
Yeah, but I'm just saying at Calaveras.
So
And they are next week too, so most chances
Oh, no, yeah, you're right.
they're on a 2-week spring break or 2.5 week or.
they're not going to be focused on this meeting, I can tell you. All right, so.
And one more thing, I just want to bring the board up to date on our ongoing TSD issues. I'm sure that you've seen the emails that have come out of TSD. We've had problems with a failed server or portions of a failed server. They have been working diligently with in-house and with the outside vendor to try and rectify the situation. It's been causing some disruption in work and accessibility to files, but I assure you they work through the weekend and they continue to work really hard to try and resolve the issue and bring it back up so that all files are accessible.
And we'll hear more during budget sessions about the need for.
Yes, for our aging, to support our aging technology infrastructure.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, with the recession and the cuts, one of the things that we put on hold was maintaining the infrastructure for our technology, and unfortunately now we're starting to see the price that we may be paying and what our needs, and they're looking at what our needs are going to be. Our most critical needs that we need to deal with in the next year and then beyond.
Excuse me. I'm still on the meeting. I'm sorry. Just clarification. So we were talking about the night meeting on March 31st, right? And now we're talking about an evening meeting on the 28th of April. Thank you. So it's later and the kids could. Thank you.
The only thing that I would ask, some of the comments made by Supervisor Kearney was consideration of the consent item and how consent items are handled by the board. I have looked through the board-adopted rules of procedure, and it's silent as to when consent agenda items are, anything that's pulled are then brought forward for discussion. So anytime that it's silent, typically it goes to the discretion of the chair as far as how and when the items are handled. The other thing of issue that you brought up was how the county handles abstention votes. We do have a section in the board procedures that discuss abstention votes. So if the majority of I would like to poll the board, and if the majority of the board would like to, like for staff to bring forward alternative language for abstention votes, and essentially the board adopted rules of procedure would need to be modified in order to make any changes to that. So if a majority of the board would like to see that, I would like direction on bringing that forward.
How many, what kind of staff time did that take you? So the cost of the county on that?
At this time, I'm not positive. It would likely be on my office that would be looking into modifying the board procedures. I believe that it was our office that brought the board procedures forward initially. This is just one section, so I don't think that it would be extensive amount of time, but I would likely want to find out what other jurisdictions do, so I would reach out to my counterparts and find out what they would have. It would be a matter of drafting language, I assume, or bringing an item back to the board, because ultimately I would need direction on what the board would want.
But didn't we just change this about less than 2 years ago?
Came on. Yeah.
And there was a particular reason why we changed that. We already probably have language that was previously that should fit right in there.
She's saying she's going to have to go research and spend the time.
Right. I will have to go back through our office records, because I was not involved with the update of this, to find out what the language was before and to why our office recommended the change to this. And then 3, if we're going to be changing it to something else, what would that be? So you asked how much resources.
Yeah, well, I'm just good. To me, it's a minor. I agree. It is somewhat confusing, but it's such a minor issue in our counties that I don't think we should spend one more dime. Is my thought. And so if it's going to cost obviously hundreds of dollars in staff time to do, then I think that we should, just live with what we have now and move on to other more important items.
I would disagree with that. I'm not asking for anything that costs a lot of money, but a legal definition of abstention is very easy. I agree with what Supervisor Edson just said, that it's probably in the language prior, and that was correct. I know completely well why it was instituted. I actually attended the board meetings when the issue was ongoing. But when I abstained and was duly corrected by someone in the audience as to how we define it, the fact of business was I used it correctly, and it slowed the process. And an item that we were going to push forward had several corrections in it that I didn't even catch, other board members did. And all I'm asking is that if someone comes in here and they sit down and they say abstain from something, it should be the same definition that's used by most meetings across the country. And I don't think it would take a lot of resources.
Well, it's still going to cost several $100s in staff time. So, I'm not, if it's really important to you, that was just my thought. Is it really that important to you? And you're saying yes, it is. So that's I'm fine.
So if the direction of the board is for me to reach out to my counterparts, find out what the majority of other jurisdictions use, if they have language specifically to abstentions, then bring that forward as far as a modification to the board procedures that would essentially match whatever, if there are any changes. Bring that forward to the board for consideration at a later date.
You already know my thought.
Yeah, you don't mind.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, bring it forward. Yeah.
Okay, we have 3 votes. I will work on that. I don't have anything further.
Okay, any public comments?
It's Bill McManus. I just wanted to mention that I've been coming to board meetings off and on and streaky sessions since the early 80s. Back then, the Board of Supervisors met 4 times a month. On occasion, they would have a special night meeting. Now that we've condensed the board meetings to 2 days a month, when you're out talking with people, and I know you do, but especially on certain subjects, the population, the citizens are starting to feel more and more remote from their board. In the early days, I had to make the choice. I was self-employed. I had to make the choice between my business and coming to a board meeting. And so I don't think it's unreasonable. And, as far as I'm concerned, the tax money that I'm giving you, I don't mind if you spend a few bucks for a night meeting once a month. If you're having trouble filling an agenda, I might suggest that it rotate from one district to another each month, and then things like community plans can be discussed at a time when more people can get involved. So you get a reflection of the broader sense of the district. And let's get these community plans cleaned up and holy water spread on them, or whatever we have to do to get them into the general plan and move on. And I think if you do this on a regular basis, people will see that the county government is being responsive to the needs and concerns of the citizens, because we all can't come down here. I'm lucky. I'm retired now. I got tired, then I retired. But now I have time to come down and participate more. Not everyone has that luxury. And, the media, I don't get the public access TV. The paper is, twice a week. There's no better way for the people to get a sense of what their government's doing for them and to them than to do it in front of them. And a lot of people, I think, would appreciate that extra access to the board. So it's something you might consider. Thank you.
I agree with this gentleman. I've always been opposed to limiting our ability to talk to you folks. One thing I would like to say, this year I really appreciate you all talking about the meetings you have attended and the meetings you're planning to attend. It gives us a better idea of how busy you folks are. When you don't say anything week after week, we think you just kind of show up and then we don't see you until the next meeting. So that's really been a help for us. Not only what you have done, but what you plan to do. Then also, I still would like to know how much the meetings cost. I remember when a couple years ago there was $36,000 per meeting. I think that's what I understood. Or it would save the county $36,000 to eliminate a meeting, or did that mean all the meetings all year? But there was a $36,000. And what would be interesting is if we knew that, it costs $20,000 to have a meeting, how much time we waste coming up here and talking, how much it costs per minute for the taxpayers to listen to all of us, expound upon what we're believing. I just think that'd be a very interesting number to have for the public to know what it costs us, taxpayers' money. Also, I had a question last time about the applications for the public works position. How many applications were received? How many in-county local people applied? And is that a source that we use before we go out county? And how many applications were received from out of county? Thank you.
So the FCC and the CPUC came to Calaveras County. These people from Washington, D.C. came to Calaveras County for a listening session. Their outreach, I think after the meeting, it was a 3-hour meeting. I'm glad you were able to come for a little bit. But there was a lot of discussion about outreach. If you want to if you want to hear from the consumers, they need to be in the room. You need to reach out to them. And reaching out in rural America is way different than reaching out in the urban areas. And it's not just one size fits all. It's multifaceted. So, Supervisor Edson, you did mention that maybe they could start with the Board of Supervisors. Well, I think that's what they did, and that's how you knew about it. But your comment today about, hey, we could have a study session here and film it, I think the people, even though the higher-ups chose not to do a big media blast, the people that were actually there, they want to hear from us, and they made sure that that was clear, that if you have a question or a complaint or anything, you call us. Don't just call us, call me. Here's my card. Call me. And that's what they said. So they would be open to a conversation with you, with anybody, to how we can move this along. Also, I'd like to give kudos to Dana Nichols. I'm glad you're still here. He saw that something was going on at Town Hall, and he came in and he stayed. So he'll have a lot to report on that. I also would like to, I still need an answer to my question. When questions are generated through public comment, through the different items that come before us, then after the questions, then we discuss them, we vet them, we answer them. Not yes, no, we answer them. So I'd still like to know, FEMA pulled the wool or blew smoke at us or something, whatever, misrepresented, however that went down a long time ago. So we don't have a lot of trust there. So like I said before, when we all build on what everyone else has done that went before us. So Mr. Maurer is building on what others did. This board is and should be building on what we have done in the past. The information about the abstentions is, I'm sure, clearly documented in our records, and probably a phone call to Janice Elliott, because I think she was here and went through that whole thing. She could shed some light on that for you as well. Might save some money in time. But when Mr. Maurer said, when Mr. Tuno brought up the two documents and is this really just FEMA speak for what you're trying to say? Mr. Maurer said, to my knowledge. Now, he met with them, but who else was in the room with them? Was there anyone with any real expertise on that particular item, that particular subject? I would just like to know, because I don't want us to go down the same road again. I know we already passed it and approved it, but my question didn't get answered, and I still am wondering. So, thank you.
I know it's almost lunchtime, folks, so I'm not going to keep you too long. Is any of the one you're in traveling and networking along the line, is there a group in the Board of Supervisors looking for economical interest and possibilities for the future? The reason I'm asking, I haven't heard anybody, maybe somebody's doing something, that Cal Fire place, jobs, you already own it, would help the fire districts, and you can get Delta College or one of the colleges involved. Heavy duty, diesel mechanics, because right now the fire districts, they're hurting for money, but they're sending a lot of the vehicles outside the county, which costs extra money, helps someone else's economy. You have an empty shop over there. They moved their butts out of here. Can the county, I'm just saying, think about it, I'm not asking for commitments, but is there one of the group's commitments? Hey, there's an economical possibility right there and there. You own it. I'm sure there's a certain amount of facility left here. You're helping another county, couple of county agencies, because a lot of these guys that are on the fire district, they're trying to chew gum and put things together. There's a great opportunity there.
I've been working on it, Peter.
Good for you. That was the reason I asked, voted for you. Not just for your good looks and personality.
There's really a lot of benefit to
Yeah, nobody talked about it, okay? I know some of you guys up to here with work, and I appreciate it and recognize it, okay? So the other thing is, yes, I would very much would like, if Calaveras Water District can do it, folks, you can do it. Get the packet out there, folks. I know it's 800-900 pages sometimes. Print it up. Another thing is communications. Who has this Calaveras computer, the $2,000 computer that taxpayers bought it? Is one of you folks have it? Where is it? Was it a gift, a Christmas gift, or is it somebody has it? It's a $2,000 computer, folks. It's about 2 years old. Thank you. I like the look on your faces. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Got the iPad.
No. Oh, you guys deserve an iPad. It's nice to come to the 21st century, but there's only one supervisor's got one $2,000 computer, and I'll ask you what happened to it. Thank you.
It was returned to TSD.
TFC?
TSD, Technology Services Department.
Okay, who's using it?
I am.
You deserve it. Do you know how to use it? No, I'm not talking about desktop. I'm talking
No,
about
I'm
big.
talking about the laptop. No, it's not a desktop.
No. I'm talking about the $2,000 computer that's about 2 years old. Would be nice to know.
If it's a laptop, I'll use it.
Right.
Is that the one he's got?
It was reissued. Yeah.
Must be
Anything else
nice.
random you want to talk about?
Pardon me?
Any other random things you want to talk about?
Next thing.
Yeah.
Next thing. It would help your constituents and would help you greatly. If you have those slow time, and I know you're working your off, okay? But prepare for the agenda a week, 10 days prior to it. It won't hurt. Then you can prioritize what is a consent item or not. Know ahead of time, not 2 or 3 days beforehand. It's not fair to you.
Here to go, Peter. Thanks.
Good. Hope everything comes out okay. But if you get the agenda a week ahead of time, 10 days ahead of time, if CCWD can do it, you could do it.
They actually, since I've been sworn in, Peter, They are putting it out earlier for us now.
They're putting out, what, 3 days earlier?
Yeah.
Than it was last.
Now, I can't tell you when the public gets it, but I'm getting it earlier than I used to.
Okay, but because then you can see some of these consent items, you can tell them, hey, there's going to be a problem with it.
They're providing my internet.
No, we can't, because
I just want to clarify, I'll break in here. The Brown Act only requires the county to provide all of the agenda and all of the staff report 72 hours in advance, which is what we were doing. With this new board, they asked staff to increase our schedule to allow for additional time for them to review it as well as the public, which we have done. So now we have accommodated that to allow for the posting on Wednesdays instead of Fridays, so it's an additional few days. That alone has pushed everything. One thing that the public does not know is the background of what it takes to get an item on an agenda. And we are about 2 weeks, we work on items 2 weeks before they are actually heard. So every time we move it forward, that timeline for staff also gets bumped forward. And so right now, the minimum requirement is 72 hours. We currently are providing significantly more than that.
I also know what's the minimum wage, ma'am, also. And I also know that this board used to meet 4 times a month. And they were told that you're going to save $34,000 because you're only going to have 2 meetings, okay? They did not cut any of the expenses to the board up here. They did not cut anybody's expense of the staff. The bottom line is you have half the meetings, which is fine. But the money you saved, okay, you got 2 weeks to prepare for the damn thing. If you can't do it, get somebody who can, or get some more help. You saved $34,000, supposedly, okay, for having from 4 meetings to 2 meetings. And you were able to function at that time. You got twice as much time. You're still getting the same kind of compensation. Get it together, or find somebody who can get it together, folks. You have twice as much time to get meetings ready.
So what's not together, Peter?
The meetings, folks, you get it 4 or 5 days before that. You used to be able to put out the same product every 4 times a month. I'm not asking you to, hey, produce twice as much. You get $500 a meeting right now, just like you did before when you had 4 meetings, except that time the chair got $250. Bless your heart, you earn it. But it should give you the opportunity to prepare for this board meeting twice a month instead of 4 times a month. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not quite, if I understand the public comments being made here, but what I do know is that we're always working ahead of ourselves in regards to preparation of these meetings. And I, for myself, am perfectly fine with the time commitment given for me as a board member to study the agenda package and to get a hold of staff if I have particular questions and such. So I find that, I would agree having something out in the foyer there, even if it's an electronic device that people can look at information. I know that the admin office has always made themselves available for public review of certain documents. What I do find is that perhaps if this was more available to people, then perhaps the public would be a little bit better informed about these agenda items. Because most times I find on the consent items, it's been covered in a staff report. So if the public doesn't have access to that information, it is difficult for them to read off the agenda and understand what's being discussed. So I think that might be more helpful if we had some sort of electronic or paper copy of these items where people could be referring to. But as for 4 meetings or 2 meetings, I, for one, am not for just having meetings just because we're supposed to have a meeting. I like our agendas to be full. I like our agendas to be thorough, and I know that takes time. And today was a perfect example of Public Works pulling something. They weren't fully ready yet to come to the board to have that approval and ask for the items to be pulled. And sometimes that has to be done because when you're sending an agenda review, it's hopeful that everything is done and ready for the board. But in this particular case, it wasn't. And therefore, the mechanism is there for it to be pulled. So I appreciate the staff working kind of on different kinds of schedules to accommodate our needs for getting information onto the board meetings. And I do think that perhaps having something out in the foyer for people to review prior to a meeting would be helpful to answer some of the questions that do come before us, especially on a consent item. I find that more and more when our agenda doesn't quite maybe cover all the information and they need to know a little bit more.
I would agree. I think that we should put a hard copy out in the foyer.
I want to say something. After I was sworn in, I'm one of the ones that complained about the short notice, and you did respond to that. I do get it in time. I do have time to look at it now, and I thank you for doing that.
On agenda items, and this relates to the point that Supervisor Kearney brought up, where there was a lot of debate on one of the topics, and maybe the debate wasn't on point, and so time was wasted. I think you were referring to consent agenda item number 4, which was the Public Health Services authorization of a memorandum of understanding. And we got the explanation that this was a payment processing issue with the health insurance. I can't paraphrase it very accurately, but with possibly one more sentence added to the explanation of the item, the public might have seen, oh, okay, that's just a payment processing issue with respect to health insurance agencies. No big deal. I don't have a problem with that. I don't need to pull that one. Am I making sense to anybody here? A more complete narrative response.
I don't think the issue. I mean, you could probably word it 100 different ways, and you're still going to get comments on it, which is fine. I'm fine with that.
Sure, you should be.
I'm good with that.
In other words,
people need to understand, and they need the right to be able to call that out. I think what Steve was referring to was we have on our regular agenda. Hey, George, you need help with that?
We have George.
Yeah, he's getting good cell reception here.
On our regular agenda, we have staff that comes in for that because they never know when the consent agenda is going to be completed. It can be completed in 1 minute or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So we have staff here, sitting here waiting for the agenda items that they're going to be involved with, and as a way of saving their time so that they can get back to work, then he was saying that it would be a good idea maybe to put that consent agenda at the end of.
Yeah, there's two different issues. There's two different issues. I'm completely in support of the idea of the consent agenda items that are pulled get pushed to the back of the list so that to save staff time. That makes all the sense in the world. But with respect to the way that the item is worded on the agenda itself, if it's a more complete narrative response or narrative description of the item, then you might actually stimulate more debate on some issues because now people understand it better and that they have an issue with it. But you also might preclude problems with an agenda item because it is more completely explained on the agenda sheet itself. You don't have to refer to backup material.
All right, thank you.
Just some explanation. Sometimes I ask for more information because it's not just me that I want to have informed, but I think people watching TV may not know what the agenda item is, may not have access to the supplemental information, and they may have those same questions. So they're very seldom very, broad questions. They're usually very specific about how much money, where from. But one reason to allow that is to include the people in the audience that don't have access to the computer, to the agenda, and maybe just turn on the TV and then have questions. What are we doing? What are we talking about? And they never get their questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I got one thing, if we're still on this agenda item.
Sure.
Meetings. The River Reflection Colony River Arch Project we were talking about earlier, that runs through the Hotel de Jay in downtown Colony Hill until the 29th of this month. So I encourage everybody to stop by and check that out.
All right. So is there any other questions that were left? Go ahead, Marty.
I've already asked it a couple of times. I just want an answer to my question. Come back next week.
She asked about a question.
No, what I'm saying is, if you're not prepared, don't have the information today, at least tell me that you will look into it, and that I'm off base, and that there's no answer. But it just seems to me that if we're going to go into a big negotiation with FEMA, I'd like to know that we had some expertise with us. Now, I appreciate Peter's expertise in his field, but I'm just wondering if he's saying, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, yes, that's FEMA speak. Well, I want us to have somebody in the room, in the conversation. I'd like to know who was with them, that has the expertise to be able to say, yes, that is FEMA speak.
So who would that be, Marty?
I don't know.
Because I think Peter's actually the person that's the expert.
I don't know. All I'm saying is...
he's the one that took it on. He's the one that negotiated with them.
He's building on what
how many,
former boards did as well, so it didn't just happen overnight. It's taken years.
Who else would be in the room with him?
This is a conversation I would just like the people in the know, to ask. It would be nice if Peter was here and could tell us who was there, just tell me, I just would like an answer. First and foremost, I didn't get an answer. It could have been, no, has no merit. And I go, okay, and I might go away. But we have spent an inordinate amount of time here. When someone comes up to the podium and they ask something, it's like this back and forth conversation. Just a second. This is to the issue as well. I do. But I just want to say you were not in the room. But we have spent an inordinate amount of time here, back and forth.
That's why.
Wait.
Plus, I had to use the restroom, so
that's fine. But I just want to share with you that while you were gone.
Well, I don't really need a recap. That's okay. I would like County Council to answer your question, because we're way off topic. We shouldn't.
I know that.
This on the agenda.
This was on topic before, and
no,
then
it's still public comment. Yeah, but it's not.
Never mind. You know what? Never mind.
Well, I would like to clarify. When we open public comment on an item, it is supposed to be for the item that it's on. So this was for item.
Good point.
Reporting out, which is item 12. Typically, when the public asks questions, staff makes every effort to answer it at the time that the question is posed. If additional time is needed, then and the board wants an answer before the board takes action, then we will have to re-agendize it and come back with an answer for the public. If the board does not feel that they need an answer to that question in order for them to feel comfortable to take action on that item, the board can take action on that item and direct a member of the public to seek advice from staff to get clarification or to get additional information that would then hopefully answer the question that you have. Hopefully, I would direct Marty, or I can follow up with Peter to clarify who was involved in the meeting. I was not part of that meeting, so I cannot answer. But certainly we can, outside of this environment, try and track down the additional information to answer your question.
Okay. So, may I make a suggestion?
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I was asking for.
So here's
it's a matter of process.
It was in the moment.
Can I just
Here's
finish?
an answer for you. If you want your answer, go to the planning department, ask Peter the question, bring it back to the next meeting so that the public can hear.
I asked Peter. I asked, and then they answered everything else except mine, and then he left. So it's just a point of process. I have been coming to these meetings since 2002, and I know how the process works. We just spent a lot of time answering back and forth all these questions that were totally off topic, many of them, and yet my little tiny little question that I have asked several times finally got answered. But it would have been better if it could have been done when it was being addressed at the moment, when the item was before us. That's all. Thank you.
One last thought. When we pull an agenda item and save it for later, the staff involved also has to stay for that agenda item later. So I don't know that we're going to be saving anybody time by not staying here. So that was just a thought that I had.
Okay. All right. Any other public comments? No, I'm good for more. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.